Okay. Okay, it's not complaining. It's not complaining, but now I need to know what the delay is. So again, once again, I need to go to my own channel and watch myself again. Okay, it's not complaining. It's not complaining, but now I need to know what the delay is. So again, once again, I need to go to my own channel and watch myself again. Okay, from here, I'm gonna start counting from 1. It's not complaining, but now I need to know what the delay is. So again, once again, I need to go to my own channel and watch myself again. Okay, from here, I'm gonna start counting from 1. 17 seconds. Wow, it's like 17 seconds of delay. That's significantly more delay. There's way more latency streaming this way compared to the low latency. I'm gonna start counting from 1. But this is a 4K stream. Wow, it's like 17 seconds of delay. Yeah, see, that's a lot of delay. So the only difference is well, this is a 4K stream now. Let me see if I watch it at 4K. What does it look like? All right, I want to get an idea of the video image at 4K because this is intense. There's a lot of bandwidth. And this is another reason why people don't really stream at 4K, because the amount of bandwidth. I am going to run out of storage space so fast. Yeah, man, there's a lot of delay, dude. Like I'm watching my own stream. There's a lot of bandwidth. And this is another reason why. This is like 17 seconds of delay right here because the amount of bandwidth. I am going to run out of storage space. It's weird. It's like I'm going back in time. Fast. Yeah, man, there's a lot of delay, dude. Like I'm watching my own stream. This is weird. This is weird. This is a 4K native stream. 4K native stream. It's weird. It's like I'm going back in time. Man, I can hear myself. It's like Inception. I'm going back in time. It's like I keep on rewinding back like every 17 to 20 seconds, reliving the moment. I'm reliving the moment almost half a minute over and over again. This is weird stuff. 4K native stream. Oh, this is almost like that one time where I streamed Hogwarts Legacy and Genshin Impact simultaneously on 2 different computers. It was very, very weird. There was a feedback loop. People kept hearing me. Like there was a bunch. It was like there was a bunch of me. There was like a whole bunch of copies of me in the room, just talking to each other, even though we weren't talking to each other. We were just reliving stuff over and over again. Oh, this is almost like that one time where I streamed Hogwarts Legacy. Oh no, it's happening again. On 2 different computers. It was very, very weird. There was a feedback loop. It sounds like there's a bunch of people talking in the room, but it's only just one person. There was like a whole bunch of copies of me in the room, just talking to each other, even though we weren't talking to each other. We were just reliving stuff. Dude, this is weird. I just hear myself. Oh no, it's happening again. What if I just leave this running the whole time? The thing is, the delay is so spaced apart that it's like I can actually leave it like this. It functions. I can stream at 4K and listen to myself every 20 seconds with delay. I just hear myself. What if I just leave this running the whole time? The thing is, the delay is so spaced. Have you ever heard of Mountain Mods Case Company? No. It's like I can actually leave it like this. It functions. I can stream at 4K and listen. Man, the problem. See, the only thing about doing this is I don't know how viable this is for like answering viewer questions in real time because of the delay. Because it's like if somebody, like for example, if somebody super chats, that they'll super chat based off of something, and then it'll be like 20 seconds or 30 seconds before the super chat even like shows up. I don't know how viable this is for like answering viewer questions in real time because of the delay. Because it's like if somebody, like for example, if somebody super chats, yeah, man, they'll super chat based off of something, and then it'll be like 20 seconds. This is 4K though, man. Like, wow, there's so much, even, like, shows up. There's so much heat coming from the computer, though. Like, all I know is 4K is causing so much more heat to come out of the computer. Yeah, man. Yeah. They'll super chat based off of something, and then but we're not using that much. The thing is, I'm having to use my dual encoding. I'm doing dual encoding. So much, the AV1 encoder behaves very erratically. Like, all I know is 4K is causing. So we're not using AV1 for the internet because of the inconsistent behavior that AV1 has. So HEVC is proving to be better for live streaming. And I was researching this earlier, and a bunch of video professionals do recommend using HEVC or H.265 over AV1 because AV1 is not good. In their opinion, AV1 just doesn't have the it just doesn't have the maturity. Not a lot of platforms support, not a lot of hardware platforms support it. The thing I don't like about it is for some reason the AV1 encoder ignores your bitrate value, and instead it functions more like it's on what do they call that other setting? It's like it's running on CQP, and for some weird reason it's like it wants to do whatever it wants, and meaning the AV1, the bitrate will spike really high and then go really low, which is almost like it's behaving like it's variable bitrate, which is considered very, very bad for streaming. So, yeah, it doesn't seem like it's viable for, like, higher resolution. Maybe for, like, streaming on a platform where you're severely bandwidth limited, maybe then it makes sense, because it's going to be running at such low bitrate anyway. But it seems to me, in my experience, HEVC is vastly superior, even though it's going to use slightly more bandwidth. So for local recording, so you were asking me the OBS settings. So I'll tell you right now what I'm doing, and this may be a mistake, and I may end up going back to 1440p, because there's a 20-second delay streaming at 4K. That is like a thing to be aware of. The other thing is I need more bitrate to get the same quality level or a higher quality for this resolution. It's using up more of my computer. There's more processing power required, even though we're using the encoder on the GPU. The other thing is it's harder on the GPU, so the encoder uses up way more percentage than if you're not streaming at 4K or you're not encoding at 4K. And lastly, the other thing is the local recording file size is going to be enormously large. And typically someone like me, we tend to stream like 3 hours, 4 hours, sometimes like 5 hours or even more. Like we did like a 6.5 hour live stream last weekend for Final Fantasy 14. We literally played through the entire story of 7.3, The Promise of Tomorrow, like from start to finish. That was like 6.5 hours. So if that was a 4K live stream, that would probably be over 100 gigabytes. That would be like Battlefield 6. Or no, that'd be bigger than Battlefield 6. Like the installation file. The amount of space it would take on my storage to hold a 6-hour live stream at 4K resolution is going to be an insane amount of storage space required. And you think of like how many streams over time, I'm just gonna run out of storage space, man. And I thought I was moving away from hard drives. Now hard drives all of a sudden become completely relevant again for someone like me. Oh man, we're gonna have to buy a hard drive now, because if we want to do this 4K streaming stuff, because 4K is crazy. Shouldn't you be able to stream in 1440 while having in-camera recording it? Well, the thing is that doesn't address the file size problem. All that will do, that's what I was doing earlier before I ended the first live stream. So the first live stream, we were doing 1440p, and I was locally recording in 4K. Right now, I am streaming in 4K and I'm locally recording in 4K. But the file size of 4K is going to be enormous. Think about how long my live streams tend to be. Now, we can open up a calculator here. Let me see. Let's go find a bitrate calculator. Here's a good one. So check this out. Check this out. Video file size calculator. So we are streaming at 4K resolution. We're streaming at 60 frames per second using HEVC, the superior video encoder. We don't use that ancient H.264. That's garbage. So the default bitrate for these specs, it is saying, is 31.5 megabits per second. I am currently streaming at 35 megabits per second. And imagine if it was my typical 4 hour live stream. So 4 hours, we'll just say hard 4 hour. 4 hours duration. Audio type is stereo. Audio bitrate is 160. They're saying the default is 192. I don't use 192. I use 160. So if we calculate the file size, oh my goodness, 61.8 gigabytes for one live stream. For one 4-hour live stream. A 4K, 4-hour, 4K 60 HEVC 4-hour live stream, you're talking 61.8, we'll call that 62 gigabytes. 62 gigabytes. And here's some math. So here's some estimated file size tables. I like that they've got this. So if you're doing 4K 60 at a 40 megabit, so this is the website's recommended 40 megabyte. Look at that. 1 minute is 300 megabytes. 300 megabytes. I am going to run out of storage space if but guys, this is the reason why people don't stream at 4K even if their hardware is powerful enough to handle it. Because clearly the 9070 XT, we are using a Radeon RX 9070 XT. This is AMD's latest encoder. This is the best, the greatest generation of video quality from AMD Radeon with the what do they call it? Video Core Next. VCN. Video Core Next is what we're using. We're currently using VCN 5.0 Navi 4X. There is literally no data on this encoder on the Wikipedia page, but you guys can see the Navi 3, so basically the 7900 XTX and those guys, those were already really, really good. So the latest one is the one we're using right now. So yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like all I know is if I truly want to stream at 4K, I'm gonna have to put up with the fact that you guys are gonna have to deal with a delay, because there's like a 20-second delay from when I say something before you guys actually hear me say it. So there's that. And then on top of that, the amount of storage is insane. Like I'm gonna have to go back to using hard drives. I'm gonna have to get a really, really big hard drive because NVMe is not going to be viable for something like this. Like for 4K 60 streaming. 4K 30, but I don't want to do 4K 30. 30 is like so, you know what I mean? Like, it's funny because no one cares about 1440p. This is why I tell people no one cares about 1440p. This website doesn't even give you any data on 1440p. YouTube doesn't even have any recommendations, any proper recommendations for 1440p. So it's a huge question mark. And that's the reason why, like, I was streaming at 1440p. Okay, let's see. This one, oh, this one does have 1440p. So 1440p 60, HEVC. If we doing like 21, what do they say? The default is like 14. That's not gonna be good enough for like Battlefield. So you would need like 21 kilobits per second, 4 hours. So look at that. Look at the difference. 1440p 60, HEVC, 21 megabit per second, 4 hours, 4-hour long stream. You're talking 37 gigs. 37 gigs. So the problem with 1440p, and I realized this when I made that clip about from the Battlefield, my video, the video from Monday, Battlefield 6 is great. That video's quality was destroyed by YouTube compression, and it's because I used 1440p on the live stream. So because of that experience, no more 1440p live stream. At least from now on, I have to locally record to 4K. Do you have to
limit your game's frame rate if you are using only one GPU?
You don't have to limit your game's frame rate, but the problem is you should never... So if you're going to stream or record, you should never run your game at an uncapped frame rate. Never ever do that, because you're going to introduce... You could introduce tile tearing or weird problems or artifacts in the video recording because you're using an uncapped frame rate. So you definitely want to run a capped frame rate. And it must be... If you don't want to run 60... If you do not want to cap... I personally recommend capping at 60 if you're trying to do a 60 FPS stream or record. So you want to cap your game frame rate to 60. However, if you don't want to do that, you want to go to a multiple. So you need to be at 120. You not want, or 240, but like 240 is kind of like way out there. Most games at 4K aren't going to run at 240 frames per second. So realistically, you would cap to 120 and then you would record. You do not want it to be going to like some random number that's above 120 and it's not fixing on a multiple of 60, if you get what I'm saying. So you definitely want to cap at 120, and that's the reason why you guys see me always cap at 120. And if the game doesn't support 120 or whatever, then I always cap to 60. These are kind of like secret techniques for content creation that I'm just kind of revealing for free here. But that's because you super chatted. But yeah, that's what... So I'll tell you my settings. I'll tell you my settings right now, since you asked earlier. My settings right now, here are my settings. 4K, 60, HEVC, 35 Mbps. The duration doesn't really matter. Audio bitrate, 160. Calculate file size, 61. So if you're doing a 2-hour live stream, that's going to be half. That's going to be 31 gigs. We did a 6.5-hour stream last Friday. That is 100 gigs. 100 gigs of file size. And remember, you need to have the buffer to be double that. You need to have the buffer so that your hard drive doesn't chug and you start dropping frames. So that's why it's saying recommended storage 200 gigabytes, including backup. So you need to go double whatever this number is. So it's insane. I'm gonna have to get like a NAS drive or something. I'm gonna run out of space, guys. Like, I'm just gonna run out of hard drive space. I don't have enough space to support this long term. It's not viable. 4K streaming is intense. The amount of bandwidth required, the amount of storage required, the amount of CPU required, the amount of GPU required, it is intense. Yes, but AV1 is trash for streaming at higher resolution because the variable bitrate doesn't help. It's going to cause your watchers... It's going to cause a lot of viewers who don't have the best internet to have a lot of buffering problems. That's why I don't use AV1. Yeah, if we go to AV1, it's like, oh, you only need 26. That's not true. You would still do 35, but the problem is it would ignore this number. AV1 ignores this number. So you can put whatever number it is, and it'll spike to like 60. And it'll drop to like 10. And then it'll... So it's like, that creates problems. And YouTube doesn't like that. And Twitch doesn't even allow that. That's the reason why Twitch doesn't allow people to stream in AV1. Because AV1 is still in its infancy. Like, it's not good. For local recording, it's great. So, okay, that's a great segue. So, these, what you guys are watching here, these are my settings for streaming to YouTube. 4K, 60, HEVC, 35 Mbps. 35 Mbps is how we get the visual quality that you are watching on screen right now. In 60 frame rate motion, The 35 Mbps is what is allowing the image quality to look this good. Now, my local recording is not HEVC, although it could be. But someone talked about storage. AV1 is efficient for storage. Yes, so my local recording is AV1. So I use AV1 for local record, but when it comes to the internet, I use HEVC. That's the difference. Because with HEVC, it is far more reliable in that it will adhere to the CBR specs that YouTube and other stream services require. That is why we use HEVC. Threadripper is another. See, this is another example where Threadripper comes in very handy, because if you end up in a weird situation where all of a sudden either the stream platform doesn't support certain settings here, then you can always fall back on CPU encoding. CPU encoding is going to be very good, but you need a very beefy CPU and something like quad channel memory for it to not chug when doing something like this. So yeah, this is another example where Threadripper comes in very handy. Because here's the other thing. The other thing is, even if you use the GPU to encode the stream, the fact is Threadripper has so many PCIe lanes, so you can plug in a dedicated encoder GPU, you can plug in a separate GPU for the gaming, you can plug in a third GPU if you want. You could literally run 4 GPUs if you wanted. And guess what? They would all run at 16 lanes. And you could still install a whole bunch of NVMe, and all the GPUs would still run at all 16 lanes. The 9950X3D can, yes, it can do CPU encoding. It's 16 cores, 32 threads. Of course it can handle CPU encoding. Where it's going to be limited is the platform, because you don't have as many PCIe lanes. You can run a second GPU. It's running at half bandwidth. The first GPU will also run at half bandwidth the moment you have a second GPU in. Some motherboards, like, they give you a bunch of NVMe slots, but some of them share lanes with the GPU. So if you use those, like for example, the Crosshair Hero from Asus, if you want to use your second and third Gen 5 SSDs, well, guess what? Now your GPU is running at 8 lanes, and on top of that, you can't install a second GPU anymore, because the second GPU takes lanes from the NVMe drive. So it's like, do you want the NVMe drives or do you want the second GPU? You have to pick and choose one. This is the thing that Threadripper completely eliminates. Threadripper is like, oh, you want a second GPU? Okay, you got it. Oh, you want 16 lanes? Okay, you can have it at full 16 lanes. Your first GPU is still 16 lanes. Oh, you want 2 more Gen 5 SSDs? Okay, yeah, we can do that too. Oh, you want a bunch of SATA ports? Okay, we got that. Oh, you want USB 4 and Thunderbolt? Okay, we have that too. Wi-Fi 7? Yeah. Third GPU? You got it. Fifth M.2? Yes, you got it. 4 more NVMe's in a quad card at the bottom? Yes, we got that too. So the Threadripper can do so many things that the regular desktop just straight up can't do. Like, they just can't do, man. And that's the reason why Threadripper is way more expensive than standard Ryzen and regular Intel. I mean, Intel's in the same boat as Ryzen. Hopefully you guys watched the review that I put out on Threadripper today, because that video literally answers a lot of these questions, especially the last part of the video.
Any thoughts on the Godlike Max motherboard?
The Godlike Max is basically going to be a refreshed version of the current one. Most likely it'll have the hardware revision that fixed the Easy Bridge issue that plagued the first one. Oh, and I did get my new replacement for that, and now my Godlike works fine. So there's no more problem with my dashboard. It works fine now. It actually was delivered Sunday, strangely enough, by FedEx. So I've got it now, and it works. What system would you put? You know, Chief, what I'd probably do... You know, I could do that. You know, you bring up a good point. Yeah, that's a good question. That would... Currently, I don't have a NAS anymore. But if I was going to rebuild one, it would either be the 13900K, which is sitting behind me on the floor over there. Because the 13900K is in a really good case for a NAS. Let me show you the case. It would be 13900K, or it would be like some other computer that I've got with a 10 gig NIC in it. Yeah, this is the reason why I would use 13900K. Because there's two reasons. I'll tell you the reasons, but look, check this out. This is the case. The 13900K Intel i9 is in this ancient case from more than a decade ago. I think this case was like from 2013 is when I got it. So I've had this case for like 12 years. So the reason why, because you were asking me about NAS, check this out. Look at all those hard drive trays. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can do six 3.5 inch. Now the problem is the motherboard that I would use doesn't actually have 6 SATA ports. So I would have to get... I mean, I could just do 4 big hard drives. It's fine. But the 13900K is in this case right now. So it's the obvious choice. The other reason why is because the 13900K has Z790 Aorus Master. And for those that don't know, the nice thing about the Z790 Aorus Master, for whatever reason, the Intel version of this, because remember, the AMD equivalent is the X670E Aorus Master. For whatever reason, the Intel version, so the Z790 Aorus Master, came with a 10 gig LAN built in. $500 motherboard with a 10 gig LAN. That is the reason why I keep it around, even though I don't normally use that computer anymore for regular stuff. It's just kind of like sits there. So if I was going to rebuild a NAS, it would most likely be the Z790 Aorus Master with this ancient case with an air-cooled 13900K. Noctua air cooler on 13900K. That's what I would do. And no GPU. No GPU. It would just run off of the integrated graphics. Easy mode. So that's what I would do. That's a way to put my old computer to use. Because it's got 10 gig LAN, and it's got a case that has the ability to fit a bunch of 3.5 inch drives, which is rare in this new era of current cases. So that's what I would use. Alternatively, I could actually use the AMD version. I could go with this X670E Aorus Master with the 7950X or the 9700X. I don't really need a lot of CPU for a NAS. So technically, 13900K is a complete overkill for a NAS. You can use some low end. In fact, I could probably just throw the 12700K could go in there. But I wouldn't bother swapping it. But yeah, I could do it this. I would have to install the 10 gig NIC. I've got two 10 gig NICs. I've got the one that we did a video on a few months ago, and I have the other one from like 2 years ago now, or last year. So I could take one of those and plug that card into the X2 slot at the very bottom of this motherboard. Because the difference between the Intel version and the AMD version, the Intel version gives you 10 gig LAN straight up, but it doesn't give you a second LAN. So the nice thing is you've got 10 gig LAN on the Z790. On the AMD one, you don't have 10 gig LAN. You have 2.5 gig LAN But the thing is, the AMD version has a very useful X2 slot down here. And if you guys have watched my videos on 10 gig network cards, you would know that you only need 2 lanes of Gen 3 for a 10 gig LAN to get full 10 gig speed. So I would literally just plug in my 10 gig network card in this X2 slot at the very bottom of this board, and I would have 10 gig for the NAS. So it's easy mode. Like either option, I could use either of these and it would work. The nice thing about this one is I don't have to install the network card. This one gives me the ability to install a 10 gig card while also having a 2.5 gig dual NIC integrated in the back. So it's kind of like, these are the sort of things about motherboards that no one really thinks about. Like these different, when you choose a motherboard, you got to think about like, how do you see yourself using that motherboard 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, you know, that kind of thing. 7 years from now, if you're even going to keep it that long. MSI's RMA was very fast, yeah. It came in Sunday, so I shipped it out. I shipped it to MSI on, it was actually last Monday, so it was the 4th. I shipped it to them on the 4th. They got it on the 7th. They tested it on the 8th, and then the 11th, and the 12th, no, today is the 12th. No, I shipped it to them on the 20, no? Yeah. Wait. Yeah. It was, wait a minute. It was 2 weeks, right? When did I send it to them? I sent it to them. Yeah. I sent it to them on the 29th. I sent it to them on the 29th of last month. They got it on the 31st. They had it in their lab the 1st, or I guess their service center, whatever. The 1st through the 5th. They shipped me the replacement last Wednesday, so that would have been the 6th. And it was delivered on the 10th. It was supposed to be delivered on, I think, Friday, and then it was delayed, and then it was supposed to be delivered Saturday, and then it was delayed. Because I remember we were going to do Battlefield 6. Yeah. So yeah, in total it was like a 2-week turnaround time. And most of the time it was spent in transit through shipping. So I would say, I would say it was pretty fast. I was actually impressed. I thought it was going to be like 3.5 weeks, and it was only like 2 weeks. Yeah, the problem is I don't have any NVMEs just laying around. The only way that'll ever happen is if I move to a larger, like if I start upgrading my existing NVMEs for 4 terabytes, like I pull out 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte, then I'll start doing what you're suggesting. If you're building the DRIMM Threadripper Pro, what motherboard and RAM would you? If you're using, you're using that motherboard or you're using that CPU. That's the, isn't that the 96 core? That's the 96 core, isn't it? That's the big one. Yeah, that's the really, really big one. You would definitely want a WRX 90 motherboard. So you would either want the Sage, the WRX C90 Sage, the WS Evo, and I think Gigabyte was supposed to have one. I don't remember what it was though. It was supposed to be like they had an AI top, but it wasn't actually. I guess TRX 50 AI top would work. So yeah, either one of these. I don't know where the WRX one is for Gigabyte, but they have this. This supports that CPU, and you would be able to run all 8 DIMMs on this one. Otherwise, your other choices are going to be the WRX 90 WS Evo from ASRock, or the Pro WS WRX 90E-Sage SE. This is not EATX. This isn't even CEB. This is EEB. So this is like Dragon Ball GT Goku Super Saiyan 4 stuff. Like, this isn't even Super Saiyan 3. This is like beyond Super Saiyan 3. So it's like, I guess this, but yeah, you would need something like this. Or you could just save money and get the AI top. But if you're considering, see, the thing is, if you're considering Threadripper Pro, you're most likely better off with a WRX motherboard as opposed to a TRX 50 motherboard. I mean, even though the AI top supports it and you can run all 8 DIMMs, I don't think it has as many PCIe lanes. Like, you get 128 PCIe Gen 5 lanes with the Threadripper Pro. With TRX 50, you only get 80. So, or like 88 or something, or it's like 80, I think it's like 88, but it's like 80 usable or something. So yeah, you're kind of losing some lanes by going with this AI top, as opposed to getting something like this or something like this. Well, the thing with Threadripper is you're not limited to any sort of encoding. So you could stream to multiple content providers. You could stream to multiple CDNs. You could also transcode your own videos while doing all of that in real time. Yeah, there's just a bunch of stuff you can do that you can't do on a normal Ryzen. Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I meant. Like, if you're really not going to have a use case for that many lanes, then you could potentially save money going with the AI top. It's just AI top is kind of like you have a C. It's always weird because if you buy a CPU that entitles you to 128 lanes, but you pair it up with a motherboard that only has 80 lanes or 88 lanes or whatever, you feel like you're kind of, you know what I mean? You're handicapping the CPU. You're preventing the CPU from being able to fulfill all of its capabilities in that regard. But if you're never going to ever use all the lanes, then maybe it doesn't matter. Yeah, the other reason why I would probably use that old Intel system is because one thing I've learned is the Intel, so the old DDR5 that I use can sometimes be, let's say, questionable in terms of making it work at higher speeds on the newer motherboards. The newer motherboards seem to like the newer DDR5. So if you have old DDR5 that you bought in like 2022, like 3 years ago, for example, back when DDR5 was stupidly expensive, the older platforms like Z790, X670, Z690 even, they actually work better with the old RAM. So that's another reason why I was like, oh, if I'm going to build a NAS, I'll just take that 13900K with a Z790 and just throw my old RAM in there, like the old DDR5 5600. Just run it at DDR5 5600 or whatever. Like, I can do you need that much RAM for a NAS? I could do 128 gigs at like 4800 on the 13900K. I'm pretty sure I can get 4800. Maybe I'll just forget about it and just do 3600 DDR5, which is terribly slow, but it doesn't matter because I'm not actually using it for anything except the NAS function. Yeah, that's a good idea. I would have to get the drives though. That's the only problem. I don't have any drives for that. Like, oh, maybe that's another thing though. What would you guys recommend? Hold up. What if we go to, hold up, let me find the internal hard drives. What do you guys recommend? What do you guys personally use for, oh, what, I'm actually, okay, hold on, there we go. So check this out. Micro Center has 16 terabyte Iron Wolf drives. What do you guys recommend? Because obviously I'm not going to use NVMe storage for storing like 6-hour 4K footage from live streams. What would you guys recommend for a NAS? Toshiba N300. I saw some reviews for like local storage on desktop, and Toshiba was terrible. And Toshiba's actually what I have right now. I have Toshiba X300, for those wondering. I was looking at the Western Digital Red Pro, but I would say the minimum I would do is like 14 terabyte. But I would probably filter this to 12 terabytes or more. And I would demand 512 megabyte cache. So this is it. So Toshiba, Western Digital Red Pro. Somebody's saying, yeah, WD Gold. I was actually looking at WD Gold. I read the review for it. This is an enterprise drive though, isn't it? The WD Gold. Everyone, like, this thing is the Enterprise. I can't believe I'm looking at hard drives. I literally said at the beginning of this year that I am done with hard drives. And here we are, all because of 4K streaming. Hard drives have never been relevant to me again until now. Western Digital Gold. 14 terabytes. 7,200 RPM. 512 megabytes of cache. I think this is overkill. This isn't even marketed as a NAS drive though. Like Red, I think they've got Red Pro. This is like if I just wanted to throw something. Hold on a second. Wait a minute. A NAS would use NAS drives. That doesn't matter. I'm talking about like if I'm going to locally record to a hard drive on my computer, because the NAS drive is whatever. I can just send the footage over the network to the NAS later on. Oh, people are saying Iron Wolf Pro. Yes, they're fast enough to record 4K data. Let's put it this way. I'm literally recording to a hard drive right now this actual live stream at 4K. So yes, traditional hard drives are definitely fast enough to record 4K footage too. I would have some serious problems right now if they couldn't do that, because I'm literally recording to a hard drive right now. In fact, we can look at the hard drive in the task manager. So we are recording to the Toshiba 10 terabyte. You guys can see the activity. It's barely breaking a sweat. The peak that it has done is like 7 megabytes per second transfer. So yeah, you can totally record 4K to a old hard drive. This is a Toshiba X300. 10 terabytes. 10 terabyte hard drive. I am going to run out of space. This is not feasible for 4K long term. Let me see. Wait, this is a 10 terabyte. Okay. I mean, it can sustain for a while. Like, we can probably get like an entire season of Tech Thursdays on here. The problem is you combine that with all the weekend gaming live streams. Those are all so long, 4-hour, 5-hour. If we're doing all of this in 4K, I mean, we looked at the calculator. It's going to eat up the space so fast. So fast. Overkill for SATA 3. Wait, what is? Toshiba. This is a NAS drive. See, so if I was going to do a NAS, I'd probably get the cheapest NAS drive on the planet. So let's do the lowest price. What's the cheapest thing you got? The Toshiba 12 to oh look, this is kind of what I have right now, except this is actually a higher capacity. I've got the lowest end one. I've got the 10 terabyte. Look, I got the cheapest one. And I remember paying right around $200. So apparently the price is a little bit higher than what it normally is. I remember paying like right around $200 for this hard drive a few years ago. For the 10 terabyte Toshiba 300. I looked at the reviews of this. Man, I can't believe, like, this performs so bad. The Toshiba X300 is like the worst performing hard drive in the market. Like, I looked at the Tom's Hardware review. I read the storage review. Everyone says Toshiba X300 is utter garbage. And I was like, man, oh, the one that I just so happen to have is utter garbage. Thanks, internet. I bought the worst one on the planet. However, it was cheap. It was cheap. 10 terabytes, $200. You know, you're never gonna find that kind of deal with an SSD. You'll never find that good of a deal on an SSD. So 10 terabyte. So this thing can go up to 20 terabytes. You can get a 20 terabyte for under $400. I don't know. To me, that seems like a lot of money for a hard drive. I don't know. I think if you want drives, server part deals. What, am I doing something wrong by talking about Toshiba X300? No, I'm talking about a non-NAS drive. This is not marketed as a NAS drive. It's marketed as like a performance hard drive. This is high performance. This is high performance, guys. X300 performance. This is for gamers. This is false advertising, by the way. This is completely wrong on Micro Center's website. This is a 256 megabyte cache, not 512. That is straight up wrong. That is straight up wrong. Unless the 12 terabyte's different. But the 10 terabyte is definitely not 512 megabytes of cache. That is guaranteed to be wrong. But Tom's Hardware has like the worst. Like, you go look up Toshiba X300 review. Tom's Hardware, totally not recommended, terrible, bottom tier, garbage drive. So I don't know. A lot of people are like, oh, Western Digital Gold. Okay, so here's the question. Forget about NAS for a second. What about like a hard drive to replace this thing when this thing runs out of storage space? Because eventually the 4K video streams will overwhelm this hard drive. So what would you guys recommend for an in-desktop hard drive for literally taking the footage directly from the live stream? Because here's the thing. The thing is with the NAS. The NAS, that's where I'll just throw all the stuff. Like once it's like, you know, 2 weeks old, whatever, transfer to NAS. I'm not gonna make any clips anymore from it or whatever. I'll just throw it in the NAS. You would never use a hard drive in a... Why? What's wrong with using a hard drive in a desktop computer? If you're only just gonna write to it for stream recording, like what I'm doing. $18 terabyte Western Digital Pro for $319. Oh, this one? Yeah, this is a NAS one. So, let me ask you this. What is the drive that you would recommend for what I'm doing? Like, we're continuously writing to a drive. It's almost like surveillance drives, right? except this is 4K high fidelity quality. So what would you want if you wanted to literally record 4K 60, so it's high bit rate, big file size at the end of the day? What would be the right drive for that? Because I don't think you need a NAS drive for that. I think you would want to drive with a lot of cache though, for buffering. Or maybe that doesn't matter. I don't know. Like the Toshiba seems to be getting by. The bargain bin Toshiba seems to be working. Ultrastar or Western Digital? Why not Why not Red Pro though? Well, there's a NAS drive. Can't you just use this anyway? So, what's the quietest hard drive? I don't want a noisy. The problem with NAS drives are noisier than the desktop ones, from what I remember people saying. Would I want an enterprise drive? NAS drives are noisy though. The Toshiba drive that I have is not noisy. What is the Monster Hunter Wilds update? I wasn't even aware there was a Monster Hunter Wilds update. We're not gonna cover it tonight. Oh wait, I see it. Update. What is the update even gonna include? Oh, I forgot to log in and claim my login. Oh well. It does not save your high quality. I learned that the hard way. That's the reason why if you go watch my Battlefield 6 is great video, it's like such a low quality video. Because I downloaded it from YouTube and it's not high quality. It's like 30 frames per second, so I basically had to... It's not good. It's not good. Yes, YouTube, yeah, you can watch the video, but what if you want to edit the video? And cut it up and make separate videos out of it? See, that's what I'm saying. YouTube is always going to give you like a compressed, lower quality video than the original raw footage. Seagate sells reconditioned 30 terabyte drives for $300. Hey, that's actually pretty good. $300 for 30. That's a good price. That is a good price. Man, the Monster Hunter Wilds update went crazy on this thing. It's like all of a sudden, it's like, oh, this NVMe is being overwhelmed. This crucial P3 Plus 4 terabyte is being overwhelmed all of a sudden. But it's because I'm downloading the Monster Hunter Wilds update. Or it's installing the update or something. Yeah, I just realized, man, I'm using a lot of RAM. 36 gigs of RAM out of 96 gigs of RAM. But yeah, this little Toshiba, I mean, this old Toshiba, it's fine. It's good. It's not noisy. It's not like a NAS drive. See, that's why I don't really want a NAS drive if I'm going to put it inside the computer. RK says Western Digital runs cooler than others. So, okay, the only one that I've heard people mention that's Western Digital is the Gold. But Gold is an enterprise. This is an enterprise drive. But well, here's the thing though. Look, check this out. The Western Digital Red Pro at 18 terabytes is currently the exact same price as the Western Digital Gold 18 terabyte. Both of them are $320. And they're 18 terabyte. Why is the Purple Pro 14 terabyte the same amount of money as an 18 terabyte Gold? What's so great about this Purple? It says it's a surveillance hard drive. So does that mean this one is better at like recording video? Which is basically what I'm doing. Because that's literally all I'm using the drive for. Literally the only reason why I'm considering the hard drive is for 4K, for the YouTube channel. It's literally the YouTube channel 4K streams. That's all. That's the only reason why I'm looking for a hard drive. I don't install games on hard drives anymore. All my games go on SSD. So it's like, there's no reason to care about the performance of the hard drive unless there's some benefit for like video, because this one says surveillance. So this is for like security cameras. This is for like traffic light cameras and stuff, and security cameras. Isn't that good though for what I'm doing? People are buying the Ultrastar instead. Isn't that an HGST or whatever? Now, see, now it's starting to get into prices that I don't like. I'm not gonna pay $400 for a hard drive. That's $400 for a hard drive feels bad. That 30 terabyte 300 though sounded pretty good. For a 30 terabyte for $300, that sounds like a good deal. RK's saying reliability of Western Digital. See, I've always known Western Digital is good in terms of the brand quality, but I've never. I think the last time I had a Western Digital drive was like a laptop, like 2.5-inch laptop drive. And before that, I probably had like a really, really old 3.5-inch Western Digital blue that was only like 500 gigabytes. You know, like that's laughably small for a hard drive in today's age. Why not a 2.5-inch SSD? Because they're expensive and they're not going to get the sort of capacities that I need. Like the minimum I'm looking at is 16 terabytes, just to give you an idea. Find me an SSD that has 16 terabytes for like around $300. There isn't one. Yeah, I don't think you were here, HDZ. The whole reason why we're talking about hard drives is because I'm streaming in 4K, and 4K results in tremendously huge file sizes. And locally recording my live stream at 4K, 60 frames per second, is destroying my storage space. It's literally eating up my hard drive storage capacity very, very quickly. And that is hence the reason why we're having this discussion. $16 terabyte is a sweet spot. I remember when 8 terabyte was the sweet spot for hard drives a long time ago. Because I've got the 10 terabyte Toshiba. I also have an 8 terabyte in one of the other computers. I think I have an 8 terabyte Toshiba in the Threadripper or some other computer somewhere. Smallest capacity hard drive I've used. Well, I think I used to have like a 1 point something, 1.5 gigabyte hard drive, like way back. It was a hand-me-down computer. I think it was like, it was definitely IDE cable. It was not even SATA. So it was like way back. See, I keep looking at this Western Digital Gold at 18 terabyte, but because someone mentioned 30 terabyte, what is that, like a Seagate refurb for 30 terabyte for 300? Or was it Western Digital? Seagate 32 TB? Was it, who mentioned that earlier? Someone mentioned that earlier. Like you can get like a refurbished but see, refurbished to me sounds so bad when it comes to hard drives because of the reliability. Like long term, they're okay, but you know it's refurb, so it's like, I don't know what the MTBR on that, or MTBF, mean time between failure, is on a refurb hard drive. I don't know. What's Backblaze? Is that like a paid service? Well, they're definitely not as reliable as SATA. I mean, not SATA, as SSDs. But I mean, that doesn't address the issue. The issue is we're gonna run out of space if we're gonna start streaming at 4K, and I'm gonna have to rely on hard drives because they're the only thing that has the largest amount of space for the cheapest amount of money. So, because it's like you're not gonna find flash memory at these capacities at these price points. So it's back to hard drives. We're going back to hard drives. So out of all the hard drives that I've ever owned, I think I've had 1 or 2 hard drives go bad. One of them literally went bad a month ago. Or actually, no, it was already going bad. It was in the Godlike. And actually, it was the reason why the Godlike was slow at booting up. It was because when it kept initializing that drive. Now, obviously, Windows is on an SSD. But the BIOS has, the UEFI has to initialize all the drives. And the failing hard drive was causing the BIOS to take forever to initialize. Then it would go into Windows finally. Once I saw in Crystal Disk info that hard drive had bad sectors, I removed that drive. And sure enough, the Godlike is now just as fast at booting up as all the other motherboards. So it was a failing hard drive that was causing that computer to be slow at booting up. And that was a Toshiba, it was some Toshiba drive. It was probably an X300, because it's like, I've been buying X300s, like 8 terabyte, 10 terabyte X300s for the past, like, anytime I've bought hard drives, it's always been 8 terabyte or 10 terabyte Toshiba X300. Because they're like the dirt cheap one, but they're also the worst performer. So I don't know. I have no idea what brand to go with for this. All I know is I want maybe 16 terabytes or more, so I don't have to worry about the 4K streams anymore. That will solve the problem. Because we go back to the calculator. It says here that live stream that I did last Friday, which is kind of worst case scenario because I don't normally stream 6.5 hours. That's like extreme scenario. With this setting, 100 gigabytes. 100 gigabytes for one live stream. Now, typically we do what, 4 hours on the weekend? So we do 4 hours. 4 hours, 62 gigabytes. 62 gigabyte file size for that live stream. Tech Thursdays is typically like 3 to 4 hours. So every Tech Thursdays episode is going to be like 62 gigs. 62 gigs. So how many episodes of Tech Thursday? We're at like 122 times 62. That is 7.5 terabytes. So if all of my Tech Thursdays episodes were 4K, I would require at minimum a 12 terabyte hard drive, because remember it said you need to have the overhead just in case there's like bitrate spikes because of other stuff. So at the minimum I could fill up an 7.5 TB is not going to fit on an 8 terabyte because of the formatting. So I would need a 10 terabyte hard drive. So literally my current Toshiba 10 terabyte is only capable of fitting all of my existing episodes of Tech Thursdays. So think about that for a second. That does not include any of the gaming live streams. And the reality is I've done way more gaming live streams than episodes of Tech Thursdays. So altogether, we probably have over 300 live streams that are averaging like 3 hours or more. Anywhere from like 3 to 7 hours. Although 7 hours is really extreme. I think I only have like 2 or 3 live streams that are like 7 hours. But the point still stands. We're talking like massive, massive file sizes. Yeah, but I would have to buy so many more drives though. See, what you're describing is going to cost way more money than the way I want to do this. I want to do this the cheapest way possible without falling into a pitfall of buying a lousy brand hard drive that will fail after like 2 years because of constant writing to the drive due to the live stream. All right, well, I'll have to do some more research on that. I want to get some... The purpose of this live stream was to test the video quality of 4K at this given bitrate. So I need to do some local recording while keeping the stream going. I want to get some high motion footage. Maybe I should test Monster Hunter Wilds. I don't know. Monster Hunter Wilds is a much harder game to run, so maybe I should test Monster Hunter. Let's just get some footage here for a second. I'm going to stop this recording. I'll keep the stream going, but I'm going to stop the local recording. And I want to check the file size to see how big that file size was. 6 gigabytes. Total file size is 6.3 gigabytes. So in the GIB or whatever, gigabyte or gigabyte, 6 billion 592,060,812 bytes. And that is a 1 hour and 6 minute 4K 60. Oh, that's surprisingly small. And I think I know why. It's because of AMD's AV1. This is what I was talking about earlier. This is why I don't use AV1 for live streaming, because of what it does. The bitrate is only 13,000, which is so low. Which means that it's probably going to be... It means that the footage is probably going to look terrible when the characters are moving around. So let me review this. Yeah, in the still shots, it looks really good. And a lot of the reason why the low bitrate is there is because a lot of the on-screen is me just showing browser pages and stuff. Let me see. This is like 1 hour. The quality's good though, like for what it's showing. Well, I want to see what happens here. What happens when the character... Okay, so now the character's running around. This looks pretty good. For such a low bitrate. For 4K. That looks pretty good, actually. Alright, let me see here. Let's go. Let's take the character outside. Hold on, where's the... Let me see, how does... Let me start recording again. We're starting a new recording. Okay, so this... Let me see. Let me turn it off. Stop recording again. Let me see. What does the footage look like? So this is 129 megabytes for 32 seconds. Let's see how it looks. But see, this game doesn't have a lot of... There's not a lot of, like, on-screen movement stuff. I'm probably going to have to switch games. I'll have to go to Monster Hunter. That game is more graphically demanding. There's more particle effects. There's more just stuff in general. Yeah, this actually is fine. So we use this AV1 for the local recording to save on space, but we definitely do not use AV1 for streaming because it's terrible because of the variable bitrate that it results in, which can cause it to buffer for a lot of viewers. So instead we use HEVC for the actual YouTube stream. So let's actually, I guess we'll swap games then. Have I tried 32:9 mod? No. I don't like anything that's non-standard. The only aspect ratios that I like are 16:9 because that is the standard for 4K, 1080, etc., which is what we're using. And then the other one is 16:10, which is actually an older aspect ratio that has, for some reason, it went away for a number of years, except for Mac, and then it came back in the laptop market for some weird reason, which is nice, but it's like, why all of a sudden 16:10 came back? But yeah, no, I never tried 32:9. I'm not interested in ultra wide. My thing is I literally just run 3 monitors. So what you guys don't know is, like, I'm running a triple monitor setup. I've got a 4K monitor in the middle, and I've got 2 1440p monitors on the sides. So I got 24-inch on the left, 24-inch on the right, and those are both 1440p. And then in the middle, I have 27-inch 4K. It's very sharp and very crisp. That's what the game is on. Alright, so let's exit out of this. I'm not even doing a local record right now, actually. So let's fire up Monster Hunter Wilds, I guess. Yeah, because for some reason, I'll do some more testing on the other machine. Wait, why are we having to compile shaders? Is it because it's a new patch? Or have I just not played this game in forever, or what? Whatever it was doing something on the drive that it was installed, and it's having to load some stuff. I don't know what. Why is the codec engine, like, maxed? I don't know why that's maxed. That's weird. I still have yet to play God of War Ragnarok, and Ghost of Tsushima. It's like, okay, I guess that's cool. I haven't finished. You know, I have not actually finished Ghost of Tsushima now that I think about it. That's a game that I never finished. You know, I don't know if this 4K stuff is actually that good because it requires me to use normal latency mode, so there's like a 20-second delay. I'll have to do some research on the hard drive. I still don't know which one. I did see that the WD Gold had good reviews, but I don't know. I don't know if that's what I need for kind of the local storage. How are you multi-streaming? Are you using XSplit or something? Because if you're using OBS, OBS does not normally support streaming to more than one website. We've done the whole like dual stream thing with XSplit. And it works, but it's like, I don't really have an audience on Twitch, so there's like really no point. The only reason to stream to those platforms is if you actually have an audience. There's an OBS plugin, so how does that work? That doesn't use like a website, does it? That was the nice thing about XSplit, actually. Like, the one good thing about XSplit, compared to OBS, is XSplit has had the ability to stream to multiple content delivery networks for, like, ever. It's had that feature for, I don't even know how long it's had that feature. It's probably had that feature for at least more than 10 years. So, but I've never heard of an OBS plugin that allows you to do... Actually, I have heard rumors of one. I don't know how good it actually works, though. Because if you're doing that, like, how are you... Are you saving... So, how are you doing your local record if you're doing that? If you're streaming to those sites, how are you actually... how are you saving your local stream to your computer? Assuming you actually do that. Because I understand not everybody does that, but then it's like, okay, Twitch deletes your streams after a while, and YouTube will only let you get a lower quality version. It'll be like a heavily compressed version of the original file. What happens if the hard drive goes bad? Do you back up your data on another? Well, yeah, I had one hard drive go bad a few weeks ago. You basically just transfer everything over to another one. What temp is my PC right now? I have no idea. Let me see, hardware monitor. It's like 81. It's like 77 degrees, 78 to 81, 77, 75. It's like moving around. I assume you're asking CPU temperature because you guys can see it on the screen down there. 75, 76. You can see it right there on the Asus. That's the CPU temperature. Yeah, because it's. I mean, I can hear the fans on the AIO going full blast right now. I can hear them. No, Curve Optimizer is actually just default. I'm not actually using it. This is bone stock. This is stock. Stock settings. I'm pretty sure it's stock. Because this is the Tech Thursdays computer. I don't mess with the Tech Thursdays computer. Plugin by Sora Yuki OBS. Yeah, the CPU is not going to get that hot. It's a Ryzen CPU. What do you think? It's 16 cores, 32 threads. It has all the power. I mean, it only pulls like 159 watts. According to this, 159.5 is the maximum wattage that it's pulling. It's only pulling like 145. See, that sounds like something that XSplit already has built in. That's the way. Every time I've streamed to Twitch, all I do is I fire up XSplit. Because, like, I'm one of those people that bought XSplit a long time ago. So I have one of those very rare premium lifetime licenses for XSplit that never expires. So I don't have any subscription for XSplit. I have XSplit and I have like the full version of it. And it just works. So to me, when I think of XSplit, I'm like, oh, it's basically like OBS, except it's a year older than OBS. It's been around longer, but it's actually managed by a company. But the reality is, XSplit, what made me move away from XSplit was lack of features over time, because OBS just kept on adding stuff. Especially what really made me leave XSplit was the fact that OBS added RTMPS. RTMPS allowed for HEVC and AV1, and you couldn't do that with XSplit. XSplit, you were stuck on H.264 literally forever until recently. Now you can do AV1 and H.265. And the nice thing about XSplit, unlike OBS, is if you have a Ryzen, let's say you have a Ryzen CPU and a Radeon GPU, XSplit lets you like choose between your integrated graphics or your discrete graphics encoder. Whereas if you're using OBS will be like, oh, they're both AMD, so it'll automatically only let you choose the one for the what do you call it? Why is my controller not working? The CPU, that's right. Because Ryzen, I've got I don't have AV1, but I have HEVC and H.264 on Ryzen. But with OBS, it's like if you have a Radeon GPU, it won't let you choose the CPU for encoding using the integrated media engine on the CPU. I'm not talking about X264. I'm talking about selecting the integrated Radeon graphics on the Ryzen CPU as the actual encoder. That's what I'm referring to. And you don't have that capability on OBS unless you're using a different vendor's GPU. So if I have an Intel GPU and Ryzen, or an NVIDIA GPU and Ryzen, I can select the AMD, AMF, HEVC, or H.264 in addition to the NVINC ones. Same deal with Intel. If I have an Intel CPU and I have an Intel GPU, so let's say I have an Arc B580 and an Intel Core Ultra CPU, OBS won't let me choose the CPU encoder, like the quick sync video encoder. It'll only let me choose the one in the discrete GPU. So this is a problem with OBS that has not been resolved. So XSplit, on the other hand, finally has the ability to choose more than just AVC. However, the nice about XSplit is XSplit exposes all the different options. So, like, if you have an AMD plus an AMD, you can do integrated graphics media engine on one stream. You can do discrete AMD on the other one. Same deal if you have two Intels. If you got an Intel CPU, you have an Intel GPU. XSplit lets you choose the Intel, you know, both of them basically. So it lets you choose all codecs for all configs. We're not talking about codecs. We're talking about the encoders. So what is this plugin? XSplit's still stuck at it. No, XSplit can go all the way up to 4K. XSplit can go all the way to 8K. XSplit has never been stuck at a resolution as far as I know. I mean, you saw me streaming to Twitch. Basically, every time that you guys have seen me stream to Twitch and YouTube simultaneously, that means that I'm using XSplit. I'm not using OBS to do that. Because XSplit lets you do what this plugin does. The only difference is XSplit has had that feature for literally more than 10 years. In fact, XSplit has had that feature for so long, I can't even remember when they even added that. XSplit's older than OBS by like 1 year. XSplit started as an open beta that was free to use. It was basically just like OBS. It used to be free, and it was from like 2011? I'm trying to think what year XSplit came out. It was 2011. I remember it was open beta 2011. It was free, and everyone was using it. And then literally a year later, OBS came out, and OBS also was free, but then XSplit became pay. It was like a license thing. It turned into a license model because the company was trying to actually make money from the product, because, you know, you can't just give it away for free because this was a company that developed it. So XSplit became paid to use, and OBS was free, so a lot of people started switching. Well, it was a slow migration because when OBS first came out, it was terrible compared to XSplit. As you can imagine, as anything that's new and is developed as an open source project, it's going to have tons of bugs. But for what it did okay in the beginning. I remember OBS when it was like brand new, and it was it was very flaky in the beginning. And XSplit was just way more professional. So basically anyone who was like a Twitch partner in like 2013, 2014, they were pretty much all using XSplit back then. But over time, over the years, OBS got better and better and better because more people contributed to it, and it just kept getting better. Eventually it overtook XSplit in terms of features. Like, that's the thing. I finally switched over to it in, I think it was like 3 years ago. I think it was like 2022. Yeah, it was like 2022. I switched it when I started trying to really build this YouTube channel, which was like 2022. I switched over to OBS because of the ability to stream to YouTube using HEVC. Because you couldn't do HEVC on XSplit. You were stuck on AVC. That's why. Yeah, what you're describing is something that literally is in an XSplit. XSplit has everything that you're talking about, but it sounds like you have to get a plug-in for OBS to do that. Let me see, what is it called? What do you say? Sora, OBS, Sora, Yuki, multiple RTMP. Okay, I'll have to look into it later. But yeah. Alright, let me start local recording. Because I want to see, like, how does this game actually look? How does this look in 4K? Let me see. Because I'm trying to understand, like, if I want to stream a game that is very, very demanding graphically. Like, how is this going to look? Like, how does this actually look? I don't know. Let's see. Okay. This is 36 seconds. Well, let's do it at 40 second. Okay, stopping recording at 40 seconds. What's the file size? $171 megabytes for 40 seconds of footage. So that is, so it did actually, ooh, interesting. So this game is definitely more demanding on the, what appears to be, for some reason, the AV1 encoder seems to ignore CBR and just do like a CQP style or a VBR style, which is really, really strange. That's why I don't use it for streaming, and that's why we use HEVC instead. Because HEVC will enforce the CBR. It works for me, dude. We're gaming and streaming and local recording all in the same thing. That's why I was asking you earlier, if you're if you're streaming to 2 or 3 websites, how are you handling local recording of your stream? Like, how are you actually doing that? Are you just locally recording it as well? So you've got like literally what, 4 encodes going? If you're streaming to like 3 websites and you're locally recording, that's like 4 different encodes. So this actually works out pretty good. Let me see. I'm going to review the footage here to see how this looks. Surprisingly, okay, it does actually use the full 35 Mbps. Yeah, I have 2 GPUs as well. Okay, somebody's asking me the specs of this computer. So, we've already kind of gone over that, but I guess we'll bring it up again. Okay, here we go. Oh, actually, literally the game has it. Hey, is the festival over? Hey, the festival's over. Hold up. Oh, there's a giant something. Hold on. There's this thing. Hold on, I gotta go over here real quick. Somebody is asking the specs. Okay, wait, hold on, where's that thing? I need to get that thing real quick. Where is it? Why is it not going to it? Go to it. It's not gonna kill it. There's no issue. Okay. So here's the specs. The game does a nice job of showing the system specs. So we're at 4K, because you gotta be at 4K. And then here are the specs. They're literally on the screen per Monster Hunter. So AMD Ryzen 9 9950X 16 core 32 thread, 96 gigabytes of DDR5 running at 6400 mega transfers. The GPU, the first GPU, because there's actually more than one GPU, we're using the AMD Radeon RX 9070 XT. VRAM, 16 gigabyte VRAM. That is like the minimum amount of VRAM for this game. You guys can see here. This is the GPU driver. Direct storage is CPU, and it is supposed to be CPU until Capcom decides to upgrade to Direct Storage 2.0. So this is the computer. I did mention that there is a second graphics card in here, and there is a second graphics card in here. So here it is in Task Manager, AMD Ryzen 9 9950X 16-core processor. There it is, 16 cores, 32 threads, 96 gigabytes of memory. We are using about 46 gigabytes of system memory right now out of 96 gigabytes of system memory running at 6400 mega transfers. 4 sticks of RAM. That's 24 times 4 equals 96. And then the game is this game in particular is very, very hard to run because it is using Direct Storage 1.0. So the CPU is constantly going to be streaming from the SSD. So that's why you need to have at least a Gen 4 SSD for this game. Otherwise, this game will be there'll be a lot of like texture popping and it'll run really weird. So that's like, the game is very high spec. The game literally requires like the best hardware. All right, and then for the GPU, we have the integrated Radeon graphics on the Ryzen CPU, which you can see we are actually not using, but it is present. I have not disabled it. It is there. And this is the thing about XSplit, because XSplit would let me choose this if I wanted to, unlike OBS, which I cannot do that because I have a Radeon graphics card installed. It's going to always default to the discrete GPU. Same thing if I had an Intel CPU and I had Intel integrated graphics, it wouldn't let me choose the Intel integrated because I have an Intel graphics card installed. So the other graphics card is the Intel Arc A380 graphics card. So we're using this to encode to YouTube, and we are using the Radeon to use AV1 for a local record. So I'm locally recording the game to my hard drive. That hard drive is... Actually, hold on, we're not. Let me start that recording. Okay, now we are locally recording. You guys can see we are locally recording to a Toshiba X300 10 terabyte hard drive. You can see we are literally recording 4K footage here, using the AMD Radeon RX 9070 XT with AV1 encoding, because AV1 encoding will help reduce the file size for my hard drive so I can save space. Now, for the live stream, we are not using AV1. We are instead using HEVC, also known as H.265, because this is the recommended codec for YouTube live streaming. YouTube prefers HEVC over everything else, and that includes AV1. And the reason why that is because AV1, for some reason, does not adhere to YouTube's strict guidance on max bitrate values for CBR. For some reason, AV1 can break that cap if the algorithm determines that it needs more bitrate for a given scene. So for example, when we were streaming Battlefield 6 last weekend, if I was streaming in AV1, the bitrate would swing to like 60 megabit per second in certain scenarios where there was like a firefight going on or something with a lot of explosions and things. If you use HEVC, it will strictly stay to the maximum bitrate set in the encoder. And that is the reason why YouTube prefers that you use HEVC, not AV1. A lot of people don't seem to understand this. Also, if you're going to edit the footage, there is an advantage to using HEVC. However, most people now can use AV1. Most of the video editors like DaVinci Resolve, for example, you can totally import a run-of-the-mill AV1 video file, or a file that was encoded using AV1, such as the one that I'm creating right now using this AMD card. And it will work with video editors like DaVinci Resolve. That includes the free version of DaVinci Resolve. So that's why I guess eventually AV1 will mature and be more useful. But for now, the way I see it is AV1 mostly makes sense for local recording footage so that you can reduce the hard drive storage requirements. However, HEVC is also significantly better in reducing the file size compared to traditional AVC. So, yeah. So that's basically how I do it. But you can see you need a very high-spec computer because if you're going to do all of this on one computer, depending on the game, so the game, especially games that have, like, anti-cheat software, for example, they're going to, like, peg the CPU pretty high. And if you're doing these multiple encodes, your CPU is also going to be stressed out quite a bit. So no, it jumps no matter what I do. I've specified maximum. It'll dip way low, and then people who watch the stream and have like slower internet, they'll complain about the video stream buffering. So I used to get that a lot, and that's the reason why I don't do AV1 streams. For people that don't have good internet and that are trying to watch me. Also, not everybody has computer hardware that can decode an AV1 stream. So keep that in mind as well. So it's like you have to have hardware from like 2020 or newer in order to do that. So that's the reason why HEVC is recommended by YouTube, guys. Yeah, so yeah, you're doing exactly what I just said. If I'm locally recording to my computer, and I am doing that literally right now, I am using AV1 via the AMD Radeon 9070 XT. But for live streaming, I'm using HEVC. Now, I could go either way. I could make, right now, Intel is encoding the live stream, and AMD is encoding the local higher quality stream. AMD's doing AV1, Intel's doing HEVC. But I could go the other way. I could make AMD do the live stream with HEVC. I could make Intel locally record using AV1. This is just how I so happen to have it set up. The reason why I prefer to do this is because the stream is going to keep running. So I don't want to keep messing with it. Whereas with the local record, I can stop it, I can start it, I can, pause, cut, whatever, chop it up. And the GPU, this is the GPU that is also rendering the game. So the AMD Radeon is rendering the game as shown here for the 3D workload, and it is rendering the local record using AV1. So it is literally doing this, it's doing double duty right now. So the Intel's doing the live stream, and I don't want to keep on stopping and starting the live stream, but we are testing the local stream for file size and things like that in different compression settings. So that's the reason why I'm doing it this way. So it's less impactful this way. It's not hurting, it's not straining the hardware as much. But you guys can see you need to have a very high spec computer if you want to do this. Especially because the game has anti-cheat and direct storage. The direct storage is constantly reading from the hard drive. This is literally Monster Hunter Wilds doing its thing. Then we have local record happening on my hard drive from the AV1 encoding happening from here. So we're doing all this stuff. This is going to use a lot of system resources. So if you want to do all of this on a single computer, you have to have, number one, lots of RAM. Number two, lots of storage. Number three, high-spec CPU. Ideally, you want to have at least a 8-core CPU, if not better. I would say 8-core is kind of like the minimum. It's like absolute minimum that I would recommend. I personally would not recommend an 8-core for streaming. I would recommend like a 12-core or better. 16-core is ideal. Threadripper is even better because Threadripper is gonna like have way more headroom, way more memory bandwidth, way more PCIe lanes. So because we're doing this, these GPUs are only running at 8 lanes each. This GPU is 8 lanes of Gen 5. This GPU is 8 lanes of Gen 4 because this is a Gen 4 GPU. But this GPU only has 8 lanes total. So it doesn't matter if it's Gen 4 or Gen 5. This is an 8-lane GPU. So on a mainstream platform like this X870E, it doesn't really matter. But if we're using Threadripper, I could literally run, assuming this was an X16 GPU, I could run both of my GPUs at full Gen 5 spec at full X16 lanes for no compromise. This is the reason why people who are like really seriously using their computer for making money, like they're either full-time video editor or they're doing a bunch of stuff with different kinds of photography or video footage, they will typically go with a Threadripper platform because of the PCIe lanes as well as the memory bandwidth. We are bound to a dual channel memory setup, whereas with Threadripper, we would have quad channel on RDIMM. Also with the RDIMM, your computer is basically never going to be able to blue screen due to like app related problems because of the ECC protection feature in there that will error correct, whereas you don't have that on a consumer desktop platform like this. So there's a lot of advantages to going with Threadripper for productivity. No, I don't believe in dual PC anymore. Dual PC is a thing that you had to do like 10 years ago. Computers, ever since Ryzen first came out and you could get like an 8-core back in like 2017, gone are the days of dual PC streaming. Like that is completely irrelevant now. You can do everything on a single PC. But I will tell you, like Threadripper is so much better than this. Like Threadripper just has way more memory bandwidth, way more cores, way more threads, way more PCIe lanes. It's such a joy to pilot the Threadripper system compared to something like this. Not that this is bad by any means, but this just feels so, I don't know how I should say this. It's not like it's peasant class. I mean, this is good, but this is definitely not like we're piloting a Ferrari or anything. You know what I'm saying? This is just some regular, like, this is just a regular computer. This is nothing fancy. There's nothing fancy about what we're doing here. Okay, but this game is super high spec. Like, here, just, well, let's get this out of the way. Yeah, this game, Monster Hunter Wilds, super high-end game, very demanding game. Okay, there's nothing happening here. Let's go here. But yeah, we're locally recording. Yeah, I may have to look into that multi-stream thing though. I'll try to see if that's actually good. But like I don't really have much of an audience on Twitch, so to me it seems like it's a waste of internet bandwidth. But I'll look into it. I'll look into it and see. Yeah, you know why I didn't cut it? Because you only have an 8-core CPU. How much RAM do you have? You'll probably also, if you only have like 30 gigs of RAM, that's also not enough RAM. I mean, I'm literally using like 40 gigs right now. me see. I mean, look at this. Look at that. Look at the amount of RAM that I'm using. This is why I tell people 32 is like not enough anymore. 48 is what I consider the minimum. For someone who wants a gaming PC, I tell them 48 gigs at like DDR5 8000. But if somebody wants a like a stream PC, then they need at least 64, I would say. But this is why we run 96. Yeah. So I don't believe in 32 gigs of RAM. 32 gigs of RAM is so like 7 years ago. For real. I was running 32 gigs of RAM in like 2019. Actually, yeah. I moved from 16, so I went to 16 gigs of RAM in like 2013. I was at 16 gigs of DDR3, and then I went to 32 gigs of RAM in like 2017. So I went to 32 gigs in 2017. Then I went to 64 gigs in like 2019, 2020, somewhere in there. Somewhere around there. Like sometime during the pandemic, I went to like 64 gigs of RAM. And then with these, when we went to DDR5, with DDR5, I started at 64, went to 96, then played around with 48 gigabytes for like DDR5 8000 for like gaming purposes, and then went back to 96. So I'm personally, I use 96 on like all my, if I'm building a mainstream like this, like the computer that we're streaming on right now is this computer right here with the ROG X870E Crosshair Hero from ASUS with an EK thick, this is the thick AIO, a thick EK water block with the big 360 with the RGB. You can see we're running those 4 sticks of memory. You got to do 4 sticks of memory because 4 sticks of memory is where it's at. That's what looks good. It looks good. You got to make it look good. So we do 4 times 24 because it's single rank DIMMs. So we have no problem running this at 6400 mega transfers. So that's the trick. Yeah, 9070 XT though is like pretty good. I gotta say, like the stream quality seems pretty good. Well, the local record quality looks really good too, and it's actually saving on file space, which is what I need. I desperately need it to save on file space. What are the 9 stars? I don't really feel like hunting 9 stars, guys. What do they add? So these 2 are still around. What'd they do? Is there like a quest or something? I didn't really intend to do any of that right now. The whole point was just simply test the quality and test the file size using AV1 for local record, while also testing the stream. Four six didn't work out for you? That's because you were probably... Did you watch my videos on that? I'm like the only channel on the internet that shows how to do 4 sticks. You're still waiting for the 128 gigabytes from the ROG Hero? You mean the, are you talking about like a specific memory kit from ASUS? I mean, not ASUS, from like G-Skill or somebody? Who you recommended? Recommended for what? Do you recommend this Apex or Carbon? Those are completely different purpose motherboards. Apex is an overclocker's motherboard. Carbon is a standard motherboard for whatever. Why are you thinking of getting the Apex? Typically, the only people that get the Apex are people that are trying to do, like, world record overclocking, or they're, like, a true hobbyist overclocker. And they want to run, like, really high-speed RAM. Like, DDR5 8000 plus. Get me to send fast timings for that. What is that? Like a 32 gig? 32 gig? A 32 gig dual rank? What is that? Like a 64 gigabyte kit or something? Why do you need the timings to be so fast? Why don't you just run the Expo profile? You have a dedicated streaming PC. Anyone know? Anyone know I have a dedicated streaming PC? I multi-stream it, is it? I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. Like, what is this? What is this talking about? TikTok? What? What is this? Like, what? G-Skill. Oh, you're... Doesn't that already exist? I already thought... I thought there was a 128 gigabyte kit. $128 gigabyte across 4 sticks. Oh, you're talking about 64 gigabyte DIMMs. Yeah, doesn't that already exist? This is not the... Wow, this is like... This stream is turning into like a... This is supposed to be... This is one of those like Friday streams. This is like a Tuesday and we're talking about stuff that we're supposed to... This was not the intention of this. You do know that if you buy the exact same kit, that 16 gigabyte times 2, you can double up to 64 on 4 sticks and that'll work with Expo. Just saying. You do need to be on the latest BIOS. All the people who are saying they have trouble with memory, I have a feeling that they're on like an old BIOS. They're not on the latest BIOS. Putting in a second GPU just destroy. Why would it destroy the performance? Last I checked, 30 series was Gen 4. All the rabbit hole. Yeah, I mean, I get sidetracked all the time. Somebody, it's like I remember the one that seems to be the most common theme is like I start telling people, oh, we're at the end of the stream, and then somebody super chats some random tech question, and then it extends the stream for like another 15 minutes. That seems to happen a lot. That happens a lot. The whole intention of me like doing the stream was to test the viability of streaming at 4K, and is it going to destroy my hard drive? Like, am I going to run out of hard drive space within 1 hour? And clearly that's not happening. So it does look like I can in fact stream at 4K. The only caveat is there is more latency for the viewers, which means there's like a 20-second delay from when I say something before you guys actually hear it. So that is like the one negative thing of streaming in 4K. You have to use normal latency on YouTube, whereas in the past, when I stream at 1440p, I can use low latency. No, I mean, you can ask the question, man. I don't have a problem asking, or you people. Yeah, no, you can go ahead and ask questions, but I'm just saying, like, I may not have time to answer it. Tech Thursdays is really the place to ask those type of questions, though, because we tend to have a much larger audience that tunes in to the weekly show, and I don't spend my time playing a game. It's literally all just tech stuff 100%. So if you want it, the best time to ask those tech questions is Tech Thursdays. Because pretty much if you ask the question on Thursday, it's most likely going to get answered unless there's just a really large audience. And I mean, the way to guarantee that your question is answered fully is super chat. That is the way, because sometimes there's just too many people. Like the problem, we had this problem when I was doing a live stream build where people would ask questions in the chat, and I would never see the question because the chat was moving too fast. But if somebody super chats, then I definitely see the question because I get alerted to it. So, like, that's one way. 35 Mbps. We are streaming at 35 megabits per second for 4K using HEVC, and this is the quality. And this is a game, for anyone who has played Monster Hunter Wilds, you guys know Monster Hunter Wilds is an incredibly difficult game to make look good. This is an incredibly demanding game. So you need, like, super high spec. You need to also be using FSR, not DLSS. That is kind of the secret, is to use FSR. Even if you're on an NVIDIA GPU, you do not use DLSS with this game because of the way the sharpness filters work. So we've kind of been over that. This is kind of like the secret way to make this game actually look better than Monster Hunter World. 35 Mbps is the magic number for high fidelity 60 frames per second with modern encoders, which includes the AMD AMF or VCN 5.0, which is what we're using right now. This is pretty much equivalent to the latest NVIDIA NVENC encoder. AMD trailed NVIDIA for several generations, but NVIDIA stopped updating their encoder since the 20 series. So ever since Turing, the NVENC encoder has basically been a copy-paste, except for a few little tweaks. Like, one thing that they did add with the 50 series was you can now do I think you can do, what is it, YUV or YU12, 422, where you used to be limited to 420 for color space with the 40 series and older NVIDIA cards. So there's like one or two things that they added, but in terms of quality, it doesn't matter if you're on AMD or NVIDIA. I've tested all of them. The 9070 XT and the 5090 basically have the exact same video quality for streaming now at the same exact bitrate. So, I mean, we're literally using this right now, and that's how it looks. I can change it to 50, but I don't want to change it to 50 because that'll just completely, like, eat up so much hard drive space. So let me ask you this: if you're using you said you're using 48 to 51, how big are your file sizes? What are your file sizes like? Because that's going to be some insanely big file on the live stream recording. That's why I don't do that kind of bit rate. I mean, I could do that, but you're talking like... You're talking, if you're doing 50 megabit for a 4-hour live stream, which is typically how long my live streams go oftentimes. Okay, so 88 gigabytes. That doesn't seem too bad, actually, but that's so big, though. Yeah, but you're not going to be able to edit your footage, though.
I like Tech Thursdays because it will be Friday morning here. That means weekend is incoming whenever the show is on.
Yeah, but YouTube only lets you download, like, the low, like, 720p 30 versions of your stream. You don't have your uncompressed 50 megabit or whatever. Tech Thursdays. Oh, yeah. Tech Thursdays is actually Friday morning over there. Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Every time I'm done with Tech Thursdays, I do always feel like the weekend is so close. But I still gotta go through Friday. I mean, that's gonna be a huge file. Even with AV1, that's still gonna be a big file. Because if you're doing... You do realize that AV1 is not gonna save space if it's 50 megabit. It's still gonna be the exact same size. So, and there is a runoff. After around like 18 megabits per second, there's no perceptual advantage of using AV1 over HEVC. So that's the reason why YouTube recommends this. Like, seriously, you go talk to people who actually work in professional video production, they're going to tell you you should be using HEVC. Once I was taught the lesson, I agreed with them. So, yeah. Because there's not as much support for AV1 today. That's why. So if you're doing local recordings, use AV1. My local recording is AV1, but my actual output to YouTube is HEVC. Because that's what's recommended. Per YouTube and literally like all professional video editors. You have 4 sticks of RAM. You want to run at full speed at 6,000. Gigabyte video, it failed. Are you using a gigabyte motherboard? So the settings in my video are strictly for Gigabyte and ASRock. If the video was showcasing Gigabyte, it'll work on Gigabyte, obviously. If it's showcasing ASRock, it will work on ASRock. But what I have found is that what works on Gigabyte also tends to work on ASRock and vice versa. So the settings for ASRock, in general, you can apply them to a Gigabyte motherboard. I don't know why, but they will work. In general, they work. But they do not work for MSI. They might work for MSI, but it depends on the motherboard. And they will most likely not work for ASUS. No, so what do you mean the recommendation? You mean the values that I plugged in? The values that I plugged in. So you have to understand what I'm actually doing in the video. If you don't understand what I'm doing in the video, then you won't understand why it doesn't work with your motherboard. Yeah, and that's why it won't work. You're using the ROG Hero, that's why. Yes, that will not work. No, you cannot use those settings for ASUS. They're not designed... What am I doing here? I've been recording this and just wasting a bunch of bitrate with that on the screen. Yeah, those settings will not work on ASUS. They don't. Oh, you... Okay, so you're talking about HEVC. Yes, HEVC works with older clients. People on old smartphones can decode HEVC, no problem, but they cannot necessarily decode AV1. So keep that in mind. If you have people that watch you on a mobile platform, and if they're on older hardware, they're going to have a much, much harder time watching AV1, because what will end up happening is YouTube will transcode to them like a much, much lower bit rate, probably using something like VP9, but if they cannot support VP9, they're going to get a transcoded AVC, yes, ancient 2003 technology from over 20 years ago, yes, H.264. So even if someone is streaming an AV1, their viewer, if their viewer is on an older device, they're forced to watch them in the ancient H.264. So keep that in mind. Now, because YouTube will automatically default to H.264 on the transcode to the viewer if you send to them AV1, but the viewer cannot watch AV1 because the viewer's device cannot support AV1. This is another reason why you shouldn't stream in AV1. AV1 is only objectively better if you're using a bitrate limited, or if you're in a scenario where your bitrate is capped at a specific number, typically around anywhere from like 15 to 20 Mbps. Once you're allowed to go above 20 Mbps, the advantage that AV1 has over HEVC is largely non-existent, other than the fact that AV1 will give you potentially a smaller file size if you're locally recording. And that is because AV1 functions on almost like the algorithm operates kind of like a CQP form instead of like CBR. I don't know why it does this, it just does. And I have never been able to figure out, no one has been able to explain to me why it does this, because that doesn't jive well with a lot of people who have shaky internet connections. So, to an extent, AV1 has an advantage. But, you know, the reality is where AV1 really shines is at really, really low bit rate. For example, if you can't stream above 6 megabits per second, or if you're limited to like, yeah, if you're limited to 6 to 8 megabits, basically Twitch.tv is the best example. Twitch.tv limits you to around 6 to 8 megabits per second. So in that scenario, AV1 will give you better video quality than AVC or H.264. However, the ironic thing is, as far as I know, because I tried to do this a few weeks ago, you still can't stream AV1 to Twitch.tv. Maybe some Twitch partners or select individuals are in some kind of closed beta test, and maybe they're allowed to stream to that platform in AV1, but I'm not allowed to stream to Twitch in AV1, which is ridiculous because that is the one scenario where AV1 makes the most sense because it's low bitrate. It does not. Yeah, there's a delay. See, this is the problem with 4K streaming, man. Like, I'm reading comments, I'm reading questions that I literally answered. So I have to be conscious of that with 4K streaming. This is going to take some getting used to. I answered that question earlier. That question about 50 series. There's no difference. No, there's no difference. There is one feature that 50 series has that 40 series does not have, and that is you can, in AV1 YUV420, you have that support. You do not have that support on 40 series. 40 series, well, let me just, what's the whole table? Let me bring the whole table up. 40 series, there's two things 40 series cannot do that 50 series can do. And those two things are H.264 YUV422. You do not get that on 40 series, but no one cares because it's H.264. I guess unless you're a Twitch streamer or something, but still nobody cares because the color space is way more. So you just don't have enough bitrate to push that. And then the other one is same thing for HEVC, H.265. 4K YUV444 support is on 50 series only, not 40 series. And that is literally the only difference. So in terms of quality, no, there's no difference. For streaming, they're identical. They're also pretty much identical to AMD as well. Like the 90 series, the 9070 from AMD. This GPU that I'm streaming on right now, the AMD GPU, this one is equal to the 50 series in terms of the codec support. The HEVC and the H.264 support. So that's good because that means that AMD finally closed the gap on the streamer encoding quality. So you have some good alternatives there, especially for those professional cards. Because I'm still looking for those 32 gigabyte AMD cards, those AI Pro cards, because those things are probably going to be a really, really good deal. Okay, well, I guess, alright, let me check file size. I'm going to stop this local record and check file size on here. Let's see. Alright, so I stopped that. And this one, this game is much more demanding than the other one. So I'm curious to know, like, what does the actual quality look like? And what did it set, what did it come up with for the bitrate on here? So AV1 decided to do 32 Mbps on a local record. You know, actually, yeah. Yeah, it looks good. I don't need to mess with the bitrate. I feel like I don't have to, even with this game, as demanding as it is, I don't need to go above 35 Mbps. I think I figured out the secret number. Like the best balance between quality and file size. I'm replaying my local recording right now. I have it muted so you guys don't hear me echoing, but yeah, I mean this looks good, because the main thing that I was trying to do was I was trying to determine if I'm truly going to start streaming in 4K all the time, then I need to make sure that I have enough hard drive space to support these type of streams for local recording. And then I also need to make sure that the bitrate that I'm using is sufficient for the quality. And it looks like 35 megabits per second for 4K is good. For 60 frames per second, that's actually quite good. I am interested in one of those Intel GPUs. The thing is, Intel didn't change anything. B series Intel is exactly the same as A series Intel. So there's like no improvements with their encoders. And there's no reason to buy an Intel GPU for gaming, so you'd only buy an Intel GPU for productivity. So it looks to me like, yeah, this looks pretty good. Yeah, I am actually impressed with the new AMD encoder. Yeah, this is pretty comparable to what I get on the 5090. All right, well that's good. It looks like I can confidently stream at 4K, and I can leave this setting like this. It's actually not too bad. What's the file size? 8 gigabytes for 36 minutes. It doesn't seem too bad. Yeah, AV1 for local recording is definitely the way to go. So this was actually very educational for me. I learned a lot about 4K streaming in this one. How long have we been live? Like, what is this, 2.5 hours or whatever? Like, I don't know. I stopped the stream and started another one. So it's like 2.5 hours of streaming, and 444 is huge for people watching on large TVs. Yeah, the problem though is if you're gonna do 444, you need much higher bitrate. Like if someone wants to do 444 color space, they need to be if they're gonna do 4K, they would need like 80 megabits per second to almost 100 megabits per second probably to actually show you a visual difference between just doing 420 or 442 or whatever. So yeah, 444 is gonna be insane in terms of the amount of bandwidth required to actually show you a visual difference. Because the problem is, you gotta keep in mind, YouTube will continue to compress the video. So you have to like send to YouTube an insanely high fidelity stream if you actually want that 444 to show up on the viewer's display, so the viewer can actually see a difference. If someone just does, like, if I do 444 with 35 Mbps or even 50 Mbps, is not going to look anywhere near, like, side by side, you'll barely notice the difference. You'll barely notice the difference. So that's the reason, if at all. In a blind test, you know, someone might not know. You have to go with a really high bitrate if you want to show somebody 444 and them to actually notice the difference when viewing it as an actual stream. Okay, well, the reason why we wanted to test this computer, because this is the Tech Thursdays computer, so this is what we use for the weekly show, so this is the one that's the most important to get working for 4K. I will test the NVIDIA system probably either tomorrow or sometime offline or whatever, but now that I know the settings, I can just copy these settings for the NVENC, and I know it'll work, so... Okay, well, that was pretty good. Still haven't figured out what to do with the hard drives, guys. We're gonna have a serious hard drive situation that we have not resolved, so I don't know about that. I'm guessing 16 terabyte Western Digital Gold or Western Digital Pro or something, or Red Pro. I don't think I need a NAS drive for video recording. But based off of what people are saying in the chat earlier, I'm leaning toward Western Digital Gold. Unless anybody here has any experience with using like either Seagate, like a Skyhawk AI, or a Western Digital Purple Pro, or anything like that. Anybody have any recommendations for the hard drive? Western Digital Red Pro is a NAS drive. Well, what about Purple? Purple Pro is listed as a surveillance drive. Surveillance meaning video. Mark saying go with 216. You mean 16 terabyte. But yeah. 16. 2. 2? Of what though? What brand? What brand? I mean, hold up. What's the most expensive one? I just want to see, like, what's the highest capacity? 24 terabyte Red Pro. I'm not paying $500 for a hard drive, though. That's not happening. Gold, 22 terabyte, 450. That's still too much. Man, yeah, I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna end up getting the cheapest of the cheap. Mark is saying Toshiba. I'm thinking Toshiba too, because it's so cheap. I'm thinking going with the cheapy cheap, man. 16 terabyte Toshiba X300. Toshiba. Yeah, but typically the drive you'll get warning signs before the drive dies. The drive's just not gonna just die instantly. So to me, I don't really care about RAID 1. I don't need RAID 1. I mean, I've been operating this computer with this hard drive, this 10 terabyte Toshiba, since I built the computer, and there's no redundancy. There's no redundancy. And one drive failed. The one in the Godlike failed. WDO. I don't see any HGST. Like, I guess Micro Center doesn't. They used to sell them. I don't see them on Micro Center's site though. Western Digital Gold is gold. Okay. Oh, okay. I mean, that's what, dude. That just because somebody markets their product as gold doesn't mean that it's like, oh, it's gold. It's gotta be good, right? Oh, it's gold. It's gotta be good. It's like, okay, what if Toshiba comes out with like an X600 Platinum? You know, like, oh, it's platinum. We gotta go with Toshiba now. It's the platinum. It must be good. Western Digital does have a good reputation, though. That being said, so WD definitely does have a good reputation in the hard drive market. The only drive you've ever had fail was Western Digital. Well, I have had 2 Toshibas fail. I have a Seagate. I know a lot of people have said Seagate. They've had Seagates fail in the past. I had a Seagate that I accidentally fried because I used the wrong SATA power cable that was meant for a different power supply. So I literally blew out the fuses on the circuit board for my Seagate 2 terabyte. But I was able to revive it by soldering over the blown fuses. And to that day, that Seagate is still alive. And that happened in like 2012. That was like, what, 13 years ago almost? Wow, man, that drive is still alive to this day. Backblaze's annual drive failure rate report. Backblaze is the largest and most popular cloud backup provider. They burn through tons of drives. Yeah, but see, the thing about Backblaze, it's fine to look at that. That's good, but they're talking about cloud, and cloud drives are worked to the bone. Those drives, think about it. The uptime on those drives is insane. So hence they are gonna fail. But like me, in all the drives that I've had, I've only had like 2 fail. Both of them were Toshibas. But that's because most of my hard drives are Toshiba. I have like in this computer alone, we're literally locally recording this stream to a Toshiba 10 terabyte right now. And then in the Godlike, I had a Toshiba that died. So I lost a Toshiba in that one. And then I think I know I have a Toshiba in the Threadripper. I think it's like an 8 terabyte or a 10 terabyte like this one. And then, yeah, I think that's it. And then I've got like a Seagate that's really old that I revived because I broke it basically, and then I fixed it. And then, but the spindle, everything, that's still, mechanically it still works. And then I have one HGST somewhere. I don't know which computer it's in. And then I've got a, I've got a Hitachi. That's right. I got a Hitachi drive somewhere. I think I got like a 4 terabyte or an 8 terabyte Hitachi or 6 terabyte Hitachi. That's the point, though. If you're going to buy a drive, why wouldn't you buy one of the ones with the least failure? Well, money. It comes down to money. I just don't feel like paying, like, I'm not going to pay $500 for a hard drive. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care how good the quality is. It's like, to me, that's too much money for this type of legacy technology. Oh, it's not legacy yet, but it's basically one step away from legacy. We're so close to moving away from SATA. I mean, cloud data centers are literally the only place where hard drives will exist 5 years from now. Like, have you guys noticed how the motherboards are getting less and less SATA interfaces on them? That's because hard drives are going away. They're becoming a legacy technology. But yeah, I guess I'll probably end up getting, I don't really want to pay I want to pay less than $300 for a hard drive, and I want to get as highest capacity as possible for staying under $300. So ideally, I would like to spend around $200 to $250 for the highest terabyte value I can get, which is probably going to be like a 14, 16 terabyte, somewhere around there, on a sale or whatever. Seagate recertified for $300. What is the what was that website? Blaze something, what? Backblaze hard drive report, hard drive data and stats. How do you find the stuff? Download the drive thing, data, days, drive, this, that, what? This is one of those you gotta sign in. Since 2013. Oh. Since 2013, Backblaze server part deals. I'll look into it. The only reason why we're doing this, for those that are wondering, like, why are we talking about hard drives? 4K live streaming. 4K live streaming takes up so much hard drive space. You're gonna burn through your SSD storage capacity if you stream in 4K all the time. Just saying. Okay, well, I'll look into this. You said server part deals. I'll look into that then. But I guess this is pretty much it, guys. I'm glad I was able to test and verify that I can do 4K, 60 frames per second stream. using HEVC for the internet and AV1 for local record at 35 Mbps on both, and it works flawlessly. And it works with dual GPUs. This is a reason to have dual GPUs. Now, the reality is you don't need the second GPU because you can literally just use your integrated graphics. You can do the integrated graphics for the stream, or you can do the integrated graphics for the local record. Doesn't really matter. But you're, you know, like, we have streamed on the Ryzen integrated graphics before, and it is actually quite good. Once you're streaming at, like, above 20 Mbps, doesn't matter what the encoder is, it's gonna look good because you're just feeding so much bitrate. You know what I'm saying? So for 4K, it's like, it doesn't really matter. Just use the CPU's integrated graphics and it's fine. But OBS doesn't let me do that because I'm running AMD plus AMD. If I was running Intel plus Intel, I'd have the exact same problem. You've got a NAS with 22 terabytes free. You're planning to get a bigger NAS. Yeah, my cases can fit hard drives. It can't fit that many, though. That's why I need to get a large hard drive, though. Planning to get a bigger NAS, so you would just stream to that. You can map a storage pool as an iSCSI. Man, I need to look into this stuff. You're talking about things that I forgot how to do, because I haven't messed with that in, like, 2 or 3 years now. I got rid of that small NAS that I used to have. I sold the chassis to a acquaintance, and then I think I sold off... Well, I didn't sell. I, like, formatted all the drives and gave the drives to, like, family members. So I don't have it anymore. But, yeah, like you were saying earlier, I'd probably just build the... I would just turn my 13900K system into a NAS, since I don't use it anymore. Because it has a 10 gig NIC in the motherboard. But ideally, the nice thing about those like dedicated NAS boxes is they're small and they're quiet, and you don't like you can leave them running, but it's like they're not, you know what I mean? It's not like having a computer tower that's running all the time. So that's why I might actually, I don't know. I have to evaluate if I actually need the NAS. At this point, I think all I truly need is a big hard drive. That's literally all I need. I just need a big hard drive to fit all the 4K streams for the channel. That's literally it. Now, there's one problem. The problem is I like to stream from different computers. So that is where your NAS idea, I like the idea of the NAS as being available to all of my computers. Because it's like, what if I stream on Threadripper? What if I stream on, you know, like the Godlike computer? You know, those, like, what do I do? Like, am I going to have to get big hard drives for those computers as well? See, I don't want to have to do that. So I like the idea of building a NAS. But the thing about the NAS, I would have to make... So, like, 10 gig networking is the thing that I would need then, right? I don't have to have 10 gig networking. But ideally, like, at least 5 gig or 2.5 gig or something. So I would have to upgrade... Yeah, it's this sort of thing, like, starts becoming really, really expensive really, really fast. Because then I would have to run, like, Cat 6 cables everywhere, and I don't have that. So, and I've talked about this with a couple of people in the past, and it's like, oh, if you want to run 10 gig, you're going to need Cat 6 cables or whatever. And then now it's like, oh, well, I don't have Cat 6 cables. All my cables are Cat 5e. What am I going to do? Like, you know, like, the only computers that can have direct connection to the NAS would be the computers that are in the room where the NAS is stationed, so that they can actually connect to it over the switch, the 10 gig switch or the 5 gig switch or whatever. But then it's like, okay, what about the computers that want to access the NAS but are in a different room or a different location? Now they got to go over Cat 5e because they're located far away, and there's like, you know, I'd have to run like Cat 6e. It's gonna turn into like a very expensive project. I can already tell. It's because like I'd have to buy Cat 6 cables. I have to go and feed Cat 6 cables through the walls, and I'd have to go and route them and everything and all that stuff. I do not have the equipment to do all of that. And then I would have to get the switching infrastructure upgraded because all of my switches right now are literally dirt cheap 1 gig switches. They're like $12 from like Micro Center. I've got like a handful of them. So I would have to upgrade the entire infrastructure to support the NAS and run on like a 10 gig network. You know what I mean? Bitcoin? I don't have Bitcoin on hard drives. Most turnkey NAT box don't draw much power. Yeah, I know. See, that's why I kind of like that idea. But the problem is the network infrastructure in this environment is not set up to support that with high speed. It would be on a 1 gig connection. Your NAS is only one. What's the transfers though? Like, how long would it take to transfer a? Well, it's probably not that bad actually. Now I think about it. And 1 gig is dirt cheap, and I already have the infrastructure, so I might just do it. Yeah, I don't think it'll be a problem, actually, now I think about it. The problem is file transfers. Like, if you're file transferring over the NAS, over the network. But if you're writing across the network, if you're recording over the NAS... Yeah, I gotta look into that, actually. That's a good idea. That's a good idea, because I know, like, that's how Linus is set up on that. But Linus is using, like, gigabit... He's using, like, Linus uses, like, M-gig. Multi-gig. So he's probably... He's got, like, a... What does he have? He's got, like, a... He's got, like, a multi-lag. He's got, like, 4 10 gigs or something. Or I think his core links for his servers are 40 gig. But he was using, like, multiple 10 gigs in a lag previously. But see, this is... Guys, now we're starting to, like, get way out of the realm of, like, what I can actually do here. Because you're talking about, like, NAS and 10 gig networking. And now we're talking about, like, Linus Tech Tips and how they do things. And obviously, like, he has an entire... army of employees, man. Like, this is a one-man show. Like, this isn't gonna happen. Not like that. All I need is a hard drive. I just need a hard drive. It can be on a NAS. I don't know if I even need the NAS, though. But I like the idea of being able to stream from any of the computers. And they all go to a centralized point. So the footage is available. Rather than having it locally stored on one PC and then have to pull it over the network. I don't think I need any of that, though. You can get an Optane memory to speed up the hard drive. See, again, all these suggestions are just going to increase the cost. This is like a... Everything that we're talking about here is like all power user hobby stuff. That's what this sounds like. Which is funny. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. I mean, it's in the realm of what we talk about on this channel, but it's like I don't know if it's practical for me to do all of that. I mean, that's the reason why I don't see the point in upgrading to like 2 gig fiber right now for me, because my entire, like, if I wanted to go to 2 gigabit internet, I would have to upgrade all my switching infrastructure to support like 2.5 gig. See what I'm saying? Like, everything right now, my entire environment is all 1 gig. It's all 1 gig. I literally have a switch. There's literally a network switch on the floor under this table that has like, what is it, eight 1 gig ports? Yeah, I have an 8 gig 1 gig port switch. 8 1 gigs on there. I've got this PC plugged into it. I've got the PlayStation 5 plugged into it. I've got the PlayStation 5 Pro plugged into it. I have the Nintendo Switch 2 docking station plugged into it. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got the Godlike plugged into it. That's five computers. Or no, 5 devices. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, because the uplink back to the distribution panel. The distribution switch. I've got a distribution switch. This is a access switch. So, man, maybe I should make a video. How much do you guys... Are you guys interested in, like, networking infrastructure type videos? Who here would be interested in YouTube videos about, like, home network infrastructure? Like wall panels, patch panels, like access layer, distribution layer, core, that kind of thing, in a home environment. Not enterprise, not small business, literally at home networking. Because that is an area that I have not actually... We've delved a little bit into networking on this channel, but only from the viewpoint of a desktop using 10 gigabit LAN. But maybe I should make some videos on actual, like, network infrastructure type things. That would be so different from the typical, like, benchmarking videos. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that is so different from a Threadripper review that we just did. See, that's already stuff that I don't even, like, I could talk about that, but I don't have any of that equipment. I don't have Ubiquity. I don't have a UPS connected to my switches. Although I probably should. I don't. So, like, I don't have any of that stuff connected. Home lab? Oh, okay. Yeah. I remember when, I think I saw, like, one video years ago from Jay's 2 Cents on when he was upgrading his home network. Like, he put in, like, I think he put, like, a 2.5 gig switch or something in his master bedroom closet or whatever. Yeah, maybe, okay. I'll think about it. That's an interesting concept or an interesting topic that I have never actually covered on this channel. Home lab or home networking. Your goal is to make your own Netflix streaming and Google Photo-like thing. The 10 gig switch thing to me is going to be expensive to do. I mean, so let me ask you this. Do you guys have, like, Cat 6 in your... For those of you that are doing, like, 10 gig, is anybody here even doing 10 gig? It seems like no one's doing 10 gig. That's why it's like, oh, you should upgrade to 10 gig. Well, it's like, well, if I don't have a reason to be on 10 gig and no one here is on 10 gig, like, is there even a reason to even bother? Do you have any idea how expensive that's going to be? If you want to do it correctly? Meaning you have to run the cables through your walls? Well, okay, it won't be super expensive. You have to buy a spool of Cat 6. But having to do, like, get through the wall and the panels and do all the cable punching... Because I'm literally 1 gig. 1 gig based. And I made it 1 gig because it was originally 100 meg. It was 100 meg. I turned 100 meg into 1 gig. The existing infrastructure. I took 100 meg and turned it into 1 gig. What did I do? Opened up the wall, pull out the cables, and I punched them up, redid them, turn them into 1 gig. Type B. Made all of them type B on the wall outlets. Okay, maybe we'll do a video about this. I don't know. Like, I gotta think about how I would actually structure this sort of thing. The way my setup is right now, maybe we can talk about this on Tech Thursdays, because I feel like this was not expected to be this long. But I've got 1 gig or 100 meg. And for the wall outlets that I never converted to 1 gig, there's still 100 meg. So maybe I need to find a 100 meg wall outlet and show how to convert it to 1 gig. And technically it's 2.5 gig or 5 gig or up to 10 gig, but 10 gig is only on very, very short distances because there's too much signal loss, because those cables in the walls were never designed to support 10 gig. So I've tested 10 gig, and I can get 10 gig out of Cat 5e in my wall if it's really, really short. Like, we're talking like it's in the same room, and it doesn't go through more than 1 like plate. So like outlet plate. So otherwise I can't get 10 gig. So I can only do 2.5. I know I can do 2.5. So if I upgrade to 2 gig fiber, if I upgrade my switches, I can easily transition my entire home network to 2.5 gig. That's easy. And all the motherboards, all the docking station, well, I don't know about all the docking stations, but all the motherboards, they all support 2.5 or more. Like, some of them are 10 gig, like the Godlike's 10 gig, the Threadripper's 10 gig. The rest of the newer ones are like 5 gig. So I could do 2.5 gig, and I could actually get the full 2 gig fiber internet speed symmetrical. But until I make the decision, because there's a cost involved with that. First of all, you have to upgrade the internet speed. That means you're going to be paying more for internet. Then on top of that, you're going to have to buy the switches, which cost more. You'd be surprised. A 2.5 gig switch, costs a lot more than a 1 gig switch. And I would need at least like 4 of them. 1 for this room, 1 for the distribution, so that's 2. 1 for the other, like the Threadripper room, so that's 3. And then I would need 1 for the test bench room. So I would need 4. I would need at least 4. I needed 4 2.5 gig switches, at least 4, if not like a 5th one, just in case. So no, just because 10 gig, no, 10 gig. How many 10 gig switches is that? Do you know how much do you know how much one 10 gig switch costs? Those are like $400. No, that's too much. That wouldn't make any sense. If all my computers were like in one room, but then I would like trip breakers or something if I tried to run all of them. So it's like, which is unrealistic, but still. I'm just saying, no. We actually have 3 computers in this room. There's 1 in another room. There's 1 in another room. Threadripper is in another room. Yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of computers. So I would need a bunch of switches. I would need a bunch of Cat 6 cables. The centralized patch panel is in one specific area. So the way it works is each room has 2 wall RJ45s. Is that right? Yeah. Each room has 1 or 2. I think most of them are 2. 2 RJ45 outlets in different locations of the room. So, for example, the internet outlet that I'm using right now is literally located to the left of me. The other one is literally back there behind that black furniture piece that you guys can't see. There's another RJ45 in the wall back there behind me, and there's one literally like right over here to the left of me. So I've got 2 RJ45s in the wall in this room. So the switch runs into this one to the left of me. But you can see why I need more than one switch. We literally have, what did I just say earlier? We've got Alright, hold up. Alright, now I know we're at the end of the stream. Because... Where's the mouse? What happened to the mouse? Oh. Because we gotta do paint. That's how I know I'm at the end. I know I'm at the end. Hold on, maybe I need to put it over here. Let me move it over here. Okay. So the room is like this. This is the room. This is the room. This is the room. So imagine you're looking at the room from the top, you're looking at from the ceiling down. You have one RJ45 here. You have one RJ45 here. So you have RJ45 there. You have RJ45 here. So in this room we have X870E Hero, X870E Godlike, Z790 Aorus Master, PS5, PS5 Pro, Switch 2 Dock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 devices that all require RJ45. How are you going to do this without a Switch? How are you going to do this without a Switch? You have to plug all these into the LAN. So what do? I put a switch here. There's literally a switch connected to this RJ45 wall outlet. And there you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 devices. All LAN connected. All LAN connected. Oh, and PS3. I forgot. PS3. PS3 Slim also is there. Yeah. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the uplink is 8. So I'm literally using all 8 ports on this 1 gig switch. All 8 are in use. The Switch 2 took the last open port on this switch. Now, technically, it's like, okay, I could plug something in over here. In fact, now that I think about it, I think the Z790 Aorus Master is actually plugged in directly over here. I forgot. You bring up a good point. Not every device, not everything needs to be 10 gig. Yeah. So a multi-gig. So this runs through the wall and it goes to another location. It goes to another location. Let's just say it's in a room that's like this for illustrative purposes. Okay. So this goes to a distribution plate. A distribution panel. It goes to a distribution panel. From the distribution panel, we have another network switch. We have another 8 gig, 1 gig switch that connects to all the different locations. Including the router. The router is here as well. So that's the router. You got the router over here. And you have the switches in various locations. And then the router goes to something called an ONT. The ONT exists somewhere else. And then the ONT goes down the street. And then that's how the internet comes into the house. So you can see how it's set up. Now, from this one, I'm trying to think. So this goes to like another location. Well, anyway, that's basically how it is. That's basically how it is. So you can see how if I had to change this and this to like 10 gig. Oh, and then what about over here? What about over here? There's another one. You see, there's another switch over here because we got another connection going this way. We got one going over here. We got another computer over here. This one is called TRX 50 Sage, aka Threadripper, is in the lab. So we got this going over here. So you can see how it's going to get super expensive to upgrade to 10 gig. We haven't even talked about Intel Core Ultra or like the home theater and all the other stuff. So it's like, yeah, no. This is not feasible. 10 gig to me is not feasible. But the suggestion about maybe like a multi-gig switch that only has like 1 or 2 10 gig, that makes a lot more sense. But you're still going to want to put a 10 gig probably at the area where the router is. That's what I'm telling you. It's gonna get stupidly expensive because you're talking about having to upgrade. You would have to upgrade not only the switches. You'd have to upgrade like all the switches. Then you'd have to literally upgrade the physical cables. You'd have to upgrade the physical cables that run in the walls. You'd have to go through the walls. The walls, man. The walls. These cables might not even be official Cat 5e. These cables in the walls, you know what the speed is on these original cables? They were for fax modem 100 meg. 100 meg. 100 Mbps. This was the speed on the wall cables. On every single wall cable. And I literally broke them up. I pulled them out of the wall. And I rewired them so I could do 1,000 megabits per second. And I've tested it. I can do 2,500 Mbps. So I can do 2.5 gig on this old, whatever, 100 meg cable in the wall. I cannot do 10 gig. I can kind of do 5 gig for shorter runs. For certain parts, certain rooms, I have tested up to 5 gig. But, like, for example, testing to Threadripper, I can do 5 gig from the distribution. But I cannot do 5 gig all the way to the Hero and all the other stuff. That caps at, like, 2.5 gig. So, to me, if I truly want to go 10 gig, I would literally have to change all of the wiring in the walls. Yes, multi-gig switch. Multi-mode fiber. Why would I do that? Fiber? A spool of that is even more expensive than like a spool of Cat 6. Well, Linus had to do that because his house is like huge. That's why he had to do that. My house is nothing like that, so I don't think that's a problem. I think I can do Cat 6. It's like I don't think I have to worry about. Well, let's put it this way. Linus has other types of problems that I don't have to deal with because like the stuff that he had to deal with is completely irrelevant to me. Yeah, you got fiber cables, what? To like here. My fiber ends here. The fiber's there. That's the fiber run. Cat 6A is limited to 100 meters. I think 100 meters might be enough. Isn't there a newer type of Cat 6 that can go further? All I need is 10 gig, and I know Cat 6 can do 10 gig. If it's 100 meters, it's probably long enough. Yours runs from pole to box. Yeah, my fiber runs from pole to box. Like this thing right here. This thing right here. For those that don't know, this thing is called an ONT. Also known as an ONU in some markets. So an ONT, optical network terminal. That is what I have. That is what I have. The fiber cable runs to this. And then from this, I have RJ45 going to the router. And then everything is RJ45. Literally everything is RJ45. From the ONT into this, all this stuff is all RJ45. Originally designed for 100 meg. I retrofitted it myself into 1 gig, up to 5 gig. In fact, I tested 10 gig, and I could get 10 gig to work, but only for a very short distance on the ancient cables. Cat 5 cable from the router downstairs room to my gaming work room. 50 meters was enough. Cat 5 cable. Yeah, you're not going to get 10 gig on a 50 meter. Cat 5. You can get 1 gig, though. 100 meters is probably going to be fine. Cat 7, Cat 8 are basically basic alloy mount. You're kidding? Give me what? The box cable is Cat 6A. What do you mean box to router? What is box? What is this box? Are you talking about this thing?
I just get 10 gigabytes on my main Wi-Fi 7 mesh router and connect the rest of my home on the mesh satellites.
10... Get 10 gigabit on the main router? On the main Wi-Fi 7? Mesh router? Wait, what? There's a router, there's a Wi-Fi 7 router that has a 10 gig link? I've never heard of this. For real? There's an access point that has 10 gig on a Wi-Fi 7? That sounds like some kind of enterprise thing. Like, what is that? What is that? Wait, what? 10 gig? 10 gig RJ45? Unless that's like what? SFP Plus or something? Wi-Fi 7? What is that? What is the brand? I thought Cat 8 was 10 gig. Cat 8's not 10 gig? Wait, there's a Wi-Fi 7 access point with a 10 gig uplink? Which one? What brand is that? I mean, typically those only exist in like an enterprise space, though. That's not consumer stuff, is it? See, dude, Super Googly's talking about something that's basically like a Threadripper, but it's for like it's in the networking world. 10 gig on a Wi-Fi 7 mesh router. That's like true high-end Wi-Fi right there, because you know how Threadripper is high-end desktop and like Ryzen and Intel stuff is basic desktop, like mainstream. 10 gig on a Wi-Fi 7 mesh router sounds to me like a high-end. That's like true high-end network router right there, or access point. Unify U7 Pro XG, Orbi Wi-Fi 7. I've never heard of these things. Like, what is this stuff? This is like alien technology. What is going on here? What is this? Oh, this is a Netgear? What the? What? Wait, this is a Netgear? I didn't know Netgear had stuff like this. $10 gig. Wow. Dude, you guys are more like my audience seems to be more tech enthusiasts than me. Here I am on Wi-Fi 5, and everyone here is like on Wi-Fi 7. I'm on Wi-Fi 5. I'm sitting here on Wi-Fi. Well, I'm not actually on Wi-Fi, but like my router is Wi-Fi 5. Wi-Fi 5. Yes, I have all these motherboards that support Wi-Fi 7. My laptop supports Wi-Fi 7. My actual router is Wi-Fi 5. Not even Wi-Fi 6, not even Wi-Fi 6E, no, Wi-Fi 5, 802.11ac. That's what I'm using for Wi-Fi. That's how much I care about Wi-Fi. I'm on Wi-Fi 5. That's why, to me, the LAN connections are very important, because literally everything is connected on LAN. The only thing that I ever use that's on Wi-Fi is my phone or my laptop, when the laptop's not connected to the docking station. If it's connected to the docking station, then it's on a LAN connection. But the laptop and the phone are like the only things. Now you want Wi-Fi 7 with 10 gig, but the 10 gig doesn't do anything for you though. Like, that's the thing. Like, if you're not using the 10 gig network, then why, like, Super Googly's using the 10 gig network, but like, I'm not using a 10 gig network. Like, what do I need a 10 gig network for? A 3-piece Wi-Fi 7 is too... Yeah, dude. Like, see, the thing is, I could care less about Wi-Fi because I barely use Wi-Fi. That's the thing. That's the reason why I'm still on Wi-Fi 5. Like, if I actually used devices that could benefit from Wi-Fi 7, then I would definitely use Wi-Fi 7. But it's like, you know, everything's on the LAN. It's like, I only have my phone, what, like the laptop, the Switch 2, now that I think about, maybe the Switch 2 is on Wi-Fi sometimes when it's in, when it's in handheld mode, maybe. Okay, there's another example. But most of the Switch 2 games that I play are single player anyway, so like Mario Kart World's like the only multiplayer game that I played on the Switch 2. Oh man, yeah, I don't know, like, my setup seems so low end by comparison. Yes. I've got stuff like the TRX 50 Sage and the X870E Godlike, and they're connected to 1 gig infrastructure with Wi-Fi 5. Talk about priorities. 10 gig PoE for that AP, and those are expensive switches. Oh man. If you stream your games to your handhelds. If I had the PlayStation Portable, or no, the PlayStation Portal. The PlayStation Portal for PS5 streaming, then I would consider it, but I don't have one of those. And I don't have a Steam Deck. The only handheld that I use is literally the Switch 2. That's it, just a Switch 2. Yeah, it's sitting over here. I need to revisit the Switch 2 at some point. This is literally the only handheld that I have that's actually current generation. Switch 2. That's it. The upside is that those switches are basically... Hold on, let me get out of this game. There's no reason for me to be in this game. exited the game. All right. I think we're at a stopping point here. Stop the local recording. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I gotta think like what after listening to all this Wi-Fi 7 stuff and PoE, I don't have any of that stuff. So I'm thinking like, okay, why? I guess I could still make a video on home network infrastructure, but it seems like it's gonna be so bare bones, basic stuff. Like a 1 gig network with like $12 8-port TP link from Micro Center. Or TrendNet, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm like. Everyone's mentioning like Ubiquity and Netgear Unify stuff and Orbi, all that stuff, and I'm sitting here thinking, man, I've got like an Eris and like TP Link everywhere, and I got TrendNet and TP Link. That's what I use. TrendNet. I've got a TP Link under the desk here. I've got a TrendNet in wherever the ASRock Nova is. I don't even know where it is right now, but it's like somewhere. And then the Threadripper, I think that one has I think that's got a TP link over there somewhere. Yeah, it's like cheapo. It's all El Cheapo stuff. It's like $12, Micro Center, 5-port TrendNet for $12. Or an 8-port TP link for $15. That's what I use. That is the network infrastructure that I'm operating on. like bare bones, minimum basic stuff, no warranty, nothing. Can't survive a lightning storm. I had one of those switches literally die to a lightning storm, a TP link. It literally fried. The circuit's fried from a thunderstrike one night. It was completely dead. I had to replace it with another one. So just get another one. They're dirt cheap, like whatever. $12, whatever. Stream to the handheld. I don't know. Like, I don't really... I just don't really use that many portable devices aside from the laptop and occasionally the Switch 2. But like I said, the Switch 2, most of the games are single player anyway. So it's like, I don't really need high-speed Wi-Fi for that. At least not yet. So I don't know. Man, all this stuff about Wi-Fi 7 though, it's like, yeah, maybe I need to consider upgrading at some point here. I gotta think about it because the problem is the cost. Because you can't just upgrade your router and expect everything to just be amazing, because you're still going to be limited by like the 1 gig everywhere for the LAN connection. So I don't know. It's just another thing to think about. If I'm going to do all of that, I might as well upgrade to like 2 gig fiber at least or something. I got to do the math. Last time I looked at it, it was going to be expensive. So especially if I have to mess with the cables. What I'll probably do, knowing me, I'm just going to go to 2.5 gig everywhere. I'd have to figure out what's the cheapest switch. Like, what's the cheapest switch that I need to buy, like, quantity 4 to put everywhere. No PoE. You can just plug it into the one outlet somewhere, I would imagine. Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's the end of the stream. I did not expect to use Paint at all on this stream, and then ended up doing it anyway. So it turned out to be really, really interesting. Now I know I can stream at 4K as long as I use the normal latency on YouTube, which means that there is like a 20-second delay. So when I respond to somebody, it's literally like 20 seconds after they've asked their question or they made the comment or whatever. So that's the only downside of doing this. Plus, now my file sizes for my local recording are going to be ginormous. So that's not good, because I have to figure out the hard drive solution for that. I gotta look into NAS. I gotta look into like home networking upgrades potentially, but there's gonna be a cost associated with all this stuff, and I don't know. Yeah. You don't think I don't think you need 2 gig fiber. It's a waste. Very few services are going to let you download it to. Steam would let you download a 2 gig, won't they? Can anyone confirm that? I know Steam lets me download the full 1 gig. That much I know. So I assume they can go more than 1 gig. The PlayStation 5 Pro also downloads significantly faster when you're at least on 1 gig compared to PS4. The PlayStation 5 Pro downloads significantly faster on the LAN connection than the PS4 ever did. So they're not as fast as Steam, but I think that's more of like Sony's servers rather than the actual PlayStation or my connection. Files does throttle down based on your use. Really? I've never noticed it. Wait, really? That's not good because, Really? I mean, well, you mentioned Fios. Fios is Verizon, which is not what I use, but that's, I need to look into that actually. That is not a good sign. That is not a good sign if they do that. You have 1 gig and you don't even get that from Steam? That's weird because I have 1 gig and I do get that from Steam. Steam will let you download full speed. Yeah, I can do 1 gig. I can download from Steam. Steam updates for me are very fast because 1 gig. So I can only imagine if it was 2 gig, it would be even faster. So I think that might. But doesn't Fios, you're Fios, man. Fios, that sounds bad. That sounds really, really bad. I'm not happy about hearing that about Fios, knowing what I know is going to happen at some point here with Verizon. But Verizon is, if you're saying Fios, that means you have Verizon, because that's Verizon's fiber to the home brand. Does anybody have AT&T fiber? Because I heard AT&T fiber and AT&T fiber and Verizon Fios are the 2 largest ones in the US for fiber. I'm not happy hearing that about Fios though. That doesn't sound good. You use GCI. What's GCI? Yeah, it's because you don't share the internet with enough people. That's the thing. Here's the thing. The more people that live in an area that have the same ISP, the more likely they're going to be prone to throttling because it's a shared network. It's a shared infrastructure. What's TDS? Who's that? I don't even know who that is. Is AT&T Uverse? I heard AT&T and Verizon are the biggest ones for home internet, and that's news to me because I did not know AT&T was that big in fiber. Oh, there's lots of rural ones. There's a lot of rural ones. The rural ones I think are actually quite good. From my understanding, is the rural. If you're somebody who has a rural internet provider, you probably have a really good service level from them because they typically there's less people, so you're not having to share as much bandwidth. So yeah, the people who live out in the rural, if you live in a rural area and you have gigabit internet, fiber internet, that is really good. That is actually very good. So you're one of the lucky ones. Because the people that live in like urban cities, the more crowded, the more urban, the more likely you're gonna get hit with throttling, because the infrastructure is literally, there's too many people sharing the same like big internet pipe that uplinks to the ISP's core, and that's the reason why. What does TDS stand for? Like, what is that? Like, can you tell me what's that actually mean? TDS? I don't know what that is. I know it's the name of a company. I don't know who it is, though. The stupid thing is the government gave ISPs like 100 billion and something. Well, okay, see, the way it works is the government gave... Man, okay, this is going to be another like hour-long conversation. So, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to answer that question on this stream. I know the reason why it ended up like that. It's not exactly what you're saying. There's more to it than just the companies. It's because there's something called municipalities. The municipalities were the ones that were given the money, not the ISPs. The municipalities were supposed to build out their fiber infrastructures, but most local governments don't have the expertise on hand, and they don't... It's like they're supposed to... Okay, it's like they can either take that money, they can hire people who know how to build the infrastructure. A lot of it's going to go to construction costs, to like dig up the ground and bury the fiber in the ground, all that stuff. Or what they can do, and oftentimes this is what they most commonly do, is they contract out the development to an ISP in the area. And that's how the ISP gets the money, because they're going to take the government, the local government is going to take the government grant that they got from the federal government, and they're going to pay the ISP. And actually what they do is they bid. They make them bid to try to like reduce the price, so they get the best price based off of the ISP that gives them the best deal, you know what I mean? But oftentimes there's only like one ISP in the area that's truly capable of upgrading the internet, so that one just de facto wins and takes all the money. So that's how it ends up happening. GCI is only in Alaska. They have a monopoly. So I don't know who GCI is, and I don't know who TDS is. Like, I don't know what those acronyms stand for. Like TDS, ISP, like what is that? TDS Telecom? What does TDS even stand for? TDS. Like, okay, whoever that is. And then the other one was GCI, ISP. Like, what is this? GCI? I don't know what that stands for either. Like, GCI is like... Whatever the acronym means, it's some company name. I mean, that's all I know, but okay. Alright, well, that's where we're going to have to end the stream. I did not expect it to go this long. But now I know I can actually stream in 4K. I know how to. I know the bitrate to use. And the settings for local recording. The only thing is it requires 2 encoders, whether we're using integrated plus discrete or dual discrete GPUs. So, alright. Well, that's it for the stream, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys on Tech Thursdays. These sort of questions, these sort of discussions are much better suited for Tech Thursdays. So make sure, if the question wasn't answered, make sure to bring it up on Tech Thursdays, because I don't think we have anything to talk about on Tech Thursdays, now that I think about it. What I do plan on doing, though, I do plan on going through the Threadripper review that I uploaded on the channel today. So we're going to review that review with the general audience on Thursday to kind of break down what those benchmark results mean for somebody who is interested in upgrading to Threadripper, or they just want to go to HEDT just for whatever reason. They either hate PCIe lane sharing, or they're fed up with it, or the lack of memory bandwidth, or the lack of cores, or whatever. So we're going to go over that. I mean, other than that, that's the only thing I have planned. So these sort of discussions about, like, internet infrastructure and all that stuff. We can talk about that too if you guys want. But thanks for tuning in. I'm going to see you guys later. Until then, take care, and I